Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if God only took a portion of Minato's soul and merged Naruto's along with the 4 remaining Uzumaki in the world, including his mother. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. No. I wouldn't be sealed again. This howl of denial was heard with the wind as it came from a village found in a clearly near a valley. It was like any wooden village, except it had phone poles and cables that are attached to them and the houses. It was known as Konohagakure, or the village hidden behind the leaf, and it had been the strongest village in the elemental continent for generations. Outside the village, there was a giant fox with 9 tails swirling around, while damaging the mountains nearby like there were sand piles. It was named the Kyuubi, or 9 tails, by the people who speak of it in the legends they written to fear and hate this being of energy, kept together by a conscience that took the form of a kitsune or a fox spirit with 9 tails. At this huge fox's feet were 3 humans, 2 adults and 1 infant. The male adult seemed to be doing something to the Kyuubi that was bounded by chains that seemed to originate from the woman with red hair. The man was weaved his hands in special seals for something. As for their identity, they were Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, the Yellow Flash, his wife Kushina Uzumaki of the famous Uzumaki clan, and their newly born son Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. They were all hoping that if they can keep the Kyuubi sealed in Kushina during childbirth, and yes, the redhead was the second Jinchuriki or living container of the Kyuubi, that things will be smooth until they had an intruder. The masked man, who killed off the witnesses nearby, blackmailed Minato into abandoning his wife to save his son who was about to kill, since his blanket was infused with explosives to be set off as soon as the man left. God of Naruto. Minato managed to defeat the masked man and save his wife so they can perform the resealing. Now he yelled, Shikifujin. After that, a celestial woman appeared with a white cloak that hid in her body excluding her head and hands. Her hair was as white as the full moon and spiky, and her skin was treeroot brown. All in all, she was dangerously beautiful as the Shinigami, and only Minato was able to see her. Since he didn't want to believe himself from blushing at another woman with his wife around, Minato tried to divert his gaze from her and get onto the ceiling when he heard giggling. Am I that ugly that you don't want to see my face? That voice seemed to be out of this world to Minato's ears, but he kept his cool. No, Shinigami-sama, you are very beautiful, but I can't bring myself from cheating on my wife while she is around, so I am trying to be a good boy as I can. Minato sounded both like a gentleman and yet a child at the same time, which made the Shinigami giggle even more. Now that is a good boy. Now, I have something to propose. She said, and Minato lost his nervousness and replaced it with curiosity. I can spare your soul if you would just let me copy the part with the knowledge on your 2 inventions, the Rinnegan and the Hiraishin. They are both your son's inheritance once he comes to the age, aren't them? Minato was thinking about the whole deal, and he couldn't feel anything to argue with about it, so he said, alright. Just tell me that I can meet my son once the deal is fulfilled, okay? Minato said gently, and the Shinigami nodded, yet Minato didn't notice it. Very well, and now the rest of the deal I didn't tell you. The Shinigami replied, and Minato suddenly got a bad feeling about this. If the Shinigami waited until his response to the first half of the deal to reveal the rest of it, I would have to seal the soul of your wife into your son's. What? But why, Shinigami-sama? Minato was beside himself and he didn't know what to do now. Rest assured, I am not going to kill her, but I actually favor her clan. The problem is that the remaining members are so scattered, there is no hope of another Uzumaki clan, so I am going to seal their souls into your sons so they can guide him to rebuild his clan again. The Shinigami explained, that is how much I trust your son from now and in the future. So, will Kushina-chan be able to be Naruto-kun's mother? She had dreamed of being a mother. Minato begged to know, and the Shinigami smiled. Of course, if that is her dream, then it will happen if you agree to the entire deal. Then I agree to them. Please keep your promise. Minato yelled as the Shinigami completed the agreement, thus sending Minato to where she knows that Naruto will arrive in a distant future to finally meet his parents. Meanwhile, in a cottage across the elemental continent, a woman with red hair was tending to her child, who also had red hair. Then, she felt a cold and eerie presence within the same room as her. The woman turned to see the death goddess herself, Shinigami. Shinigami-sama, what do I own this honor? The woman knew enough not to show disrespect around it being that can end your life before your first nasty word at her can be completed. I have come for you and your youngest daughter, Karen. 1. Shinigami gave her answer, and her host flinched at it. But why? Did she offend you in any way? Karen was shocked at the request and wondered what the reason was for presenting it. She has not, but as a being of death, I see death as well, and I saw that you and your youngest child will be attacked and killed. I want to help your oldest, who is going to be the only survivor, stay with her distant family of the Uzumaki clan. Shinigami brought the sad news that brought about the request. She always was able to know where everyone was and always say that she has been feeling fuzzy things. Then, she would always have other bite her, and their wounds will always be healed. Is that the reason? For her abilities. Karen brought up something else about her daughter that someone else should know, since the secret was going to die with her otherwise. I can't promise her to live, but I will promise that she will always be with her family and see that the hope of her clan grow to fulfill his many purposes. Shinigami said, and the woman finally brought herself down. Alright, I will tell Karen to go out into the woods where only we know how to move about. You can find her on the edge of the forest just outside the house. Okay. Karen said as gently as possible and not to offend the death goddess in any way. Understood, and I am sorry. The Shinigami disappeared, thus leaving the woman with red hair with one last thing to say to her daughter. Karen. Can you come down here, she called up, and an 8-year-old girl that was the third in the house to have red hair and she was wearing glasses. Yes, Kasan. Too, Karen asked innocently. I just remembered that we are short on firewood and I can't do it in time with all these chores to do, so can you find some? The axe is in the shed. Karen asked as calm as she can be, since it would freak out Karen if she was desperate or panicking. I would love to see that my first child is acting like a big sister to her little girl. The woman added this comment for good measure. Okay, Kasan. I will be back for dinner. Bye. Karen ran outside the cottage to do the chore. Karen just stood there and sat back on her seat to await her death. I am sorry, Karen-chan, but I don't want you to be forced to see another part of your family get destroyed by your eyes. Goodbye, Karen-chan, we love you. Soon after, fire and yelling filled the air around the area, including the cottage. No one inside ever made it out. Meanwhile, Karen was happily chopping wood with the sound of leaves in the wind and birds chirping that were drowning the sounds of death and destruction. Then, Karen felt a presence behind her, and when she turned to see the scariest but prettiest woman she ever seen next to her mother. Hello. Can I help you? Karen greeted her in the way that her mother drilled into her head, one of the last things left of the once happy family. Yes, you can by coming with me to see more of your relatives. Shinigami answered, and Karen had the excited kid look in her eyes. Really? Awesome, I have to tell Kasan about it. Karen ran back to where the cottage used to be but was halted by Shinigami. I am sorry, but there is no home for you in that direction and no Kasan to await you there. It is all gone, you are the remaining Uzumaki in this country. Shinigami tore herself apart to bring the harsh truth. What? But why? Why is everything gone? I just became a big sister and I lost my only sister, why? Karen was up in tears at the strange woman's words, and she couldn't protest after seeing smoke and embers in the direction she was going in. She was smart, unfortunately, she knew that the only thing that can be burning from this direction and distance is her cottage and her home. Or took it all away, it is all it does. But don't worry, there is still the family I promised you. You can still be with your family. Shinigami answered, and Karen dried her tears since she remembered that there is still the family she was told before she realized the loss she missed. Please. Take me there. I want to always be with my family and never lose them again. Karen yelled while bowing at the feet of the celestial woman, who smiled and placed her hand on Karen's head until the body fell limp when a transparent image of the girl left the body and turned into a bright ball of white. 2 done and 2 more to go. Shinigami said to herself as she disappeared with the soul in hand, leaving the unfinished firewood and the burning cottage outside the forest. In a room within an unknown location, there was a contraction that looked like it had 6 legs and a cross on the back. There was a man who was like all flesh and bones inside the machine, with only his head, torso and arms showing, but everything else was inside the machine. In his back were black rods that were sticking out, yet the man didn't seem to notice. By his side, there were 6-7 figures, including one that appeared to be a woman, while the others had piercing in their faces that differed from each. Their cloaks with a design of red clouds covered all but their heads, hands and feet. Then, a bright light appeared in the room and the cloaked figures rushed to protect the dried old husk behind. When the blinding light faded, the Shinigami appeared while her godly glow lit the whole room, revealing that the 6 figures had weird eyes that were purple and had rings around the pupil, while the woman had blue hair and an origami flower in there as well. The husk looked up and opened his eyes to reveal the same strange and freaky ones from before. Who's there? He said in a voice that sounded like it was dying, like the old man husk he resembled. Hello, Nagato Uzumaki, I am here to collect your soul to give it a better purpose. Shinigami presented her wish for this dried old man in the machine, who was shocked that a stranger knew his true name after years of being called Pain. How do you know my true name? Only Sensei Konan know that. Hack, Nagato yelled until he went into a coughing fit. Nagato. The woman yelled while flinched that she spoke out of turn, but Nagato didn't what she thought he would. At ease, Konan, I am a god and gods don't die. Nagato tried to reassure the woman named Konan, but he probably was just trying to salvage his empty pride, which the Shinigami laughed at that. You? A god. I am Shinigami, the goddess of death, and even gods have to watch their back when in my presence, since I have the power to kill them too. Shinigami said, and the figures present stirred and bowed in order to beg for mercy. I came for your soul because there are more Uzumaki in the world besides you. I am going to bring you to them. Shinigami said and Nagato widened his eyes. Really? There are? Nagato begged to be right and the death goddess nodded and Nagato sighed. I always thought that after my parents were killed, I was the last of the Uzumaki clan. Well you are not and if you want to see them then allow me to retrieve your soul so I can fuse it with a boy who is going to be the savior of the Uzumaki clan. You will always be with him that way. Shinigami explained and Nagato nodded in agreement. Then I accept. That didn't go well with the origami woman, Konan. Wait. Nagato. Konan begged for Nagato to reconsider, but Nagato was still hard on his decision. It is okay Konan, take my eyes and seal my bodies. This cursed eye only caused fear in your life and a terrible one for me. I can trust the Shinigami and you should too. Nagato gave his final order to Konan as she reluctantly brought out a sealing scroll with 6 sealing matrices with the kanji for person inside and sealed each of the figures inside. Then she took the eyes of Nagato and sealed them in a 7th matrix with the kanji for eye inside the scroll. Shinigami giggled at how well prepared Nagato was. It looks like you made this scroll in a hurry but managed to make it work. Nagato chuckled before explaining. I was trained by one of the Sennin to always think ahead and I made that scroll after learning some basic Fuinjutsu from him. But I never thought about making 6 more places to seal after I discovered the 6 paths technique that came with these powerful and cursed eyes. Nagato coolly brought the truth to light and the Shinigami giggled at that. If your girlfriend wants to be with you, then I can do something about that if you would disband the Akatsuki. Shinigami offered when she noticed that the 2 prisons shocked their heads. That can't happen because we aren't the leaders of the Akatsuki. The leader is a man in a mask that claims to be Madara-che. We think it is someone else who is already strong enough to support that claim. Find him and the Akatsuki will be disbanded. Nagato explained and the Shinigami nodded at that explanation. Very well, if he loves to play games as someone else, then I would love to wait until Naruto-kun meets him again and this time he would finish that masked menace himself. Shinigami brought about her plan and the 2 were wearing of it but they were powerless to protest against the death goddess. Then, Shinigami touched Nagato's forehead and removed his soul to be transformed into a ball of bright white light. Next, Shinigami poked Konan in the forehead and transformed her body into that of a young girl while keeping her abilities relating to paper. I do have a little influence on life as the death goddess, but I can only do so much as this. Don't waste your gift. Shinigami told the newly younger Konan who nodded, I know you hate Konoha, but the generation that caused you pain has ended years before so please do this for Naruto-kun who is in Uzumaki like your boyfriend. Shinigami ordered with a little teasing on the end which made Konan blush, but she turned into origami paper butterflies before anyone can see that as the swarm of living paper joined the rest of the room, which shown to be paper as well, and they all left for the village of Konoha. Just 1 soul left before I complete the whole deal. Shinigami thought as she disappeared from the location where there used to be a giant tree blending in with the rest. Shinigami reached where Naruto was and opened her stomach to release a 4th soul, and she revealed the last 2 she collected outside the village. She then grasped Naruto's soul and mixed it with the outside souls to form one that gave off huge energy and power, yet still retained its shape as a boy with spiky blonde hair. My purpose here in the mortal world is now over. Goodbye Naruto-kun, I hope we meet again for real in the future and until then enjoy your interesting family. Shinigami thought as she disappeared once more and this time, from the world of the living as a whole. Meanwhile, inside the region known as Mindscape, there was room of pure white with a cage inside and then, 5 lights appeared before it. One retained its form as a ball of white, while the remaining 4 became human figures. One was that of an adult woman with red hair that reached past her waist and wearing a battle uniform. On her belt was a sword in its sheath that gave off an interesting aura, even for a sword of iron and fused metal for the handle. She was Kushina Uzumaki, and she was the woman responsible for giving birth to the boy that the mindscape belongs to. Another was also an adult woman, but this time with black hair and in a kimono rather than a battle uniform. She had a bag that had a scroll sticking out to reveal more inside, they looked like the sealing scrolls from before. Her name was Mito Uzumaki, wife of the first Hokage and the first Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, which was passed down to Kushina before she perished of old age. The third one was more like a young girl rather than a woman, about 8 years old, with shorter red hair than Kushina. Instead of a battle uniform or a fancy kimono, she wore simple wear that most little girls do when they are going to important ceremonies, when they have to wear stuffy and uncomfortable clothes whatever they want to or not. She was Karen Uzumaki, and she is the child of the group that is going to be a big sister all over again. Finally, there is the only man out of the women present who seemed to be near his prime. He had red hair like the others with a daily pair of clothes like the last one with ninja equipment on his waist. He was Nagato Uzumaki, who was used as a pawn by a masked man, and he with his going to redeem for all that by being with a family he thought he never meet. Now was the time to awake, and that meant for everyone including what is snoozing inside the cage. It sure is big from just standing a good distance from the cage. Then it opened its eyes to show that they resemble that of a fox or something with a slit in a vertical manner. The fur and hair sticking out sure looks like it can come from a fox or at least someone from the same animal family. Then, the resident human souls awoke as well, and this is basically what they said once they notice each other's presence. Where am I and where is my baby? Where is that strange lady? Is this where I can be with my new family? How much time has passed since I left that girl to Konoha? After a while of confusion and chaos, they all finally calmed down when someone didn't seem to like the racket happening where he slept. Silence. That got their attention to see a shadow of a giant in the shape of a fox that seemed to have 9 swirling tails. You are all here because you puny mortals are reduced to mere souls to merge with this one, my latest host. I didn't ask to be sealed again. I just wanted to get out of your territory and out of your hair, but you foolish sacks of fresh meat gone bad tried to use me like a tool again. No one was interrupted, and don't give me that crap about keeping me from being controlled by people who hide behind masks and use their cursed eyes to use me for real. If that is the case, then convince me fully about it. Now be quiet and let me sleep. With that said, the behemoth went to its lumber. That was defiantly the Kyuubi, and I guess this is Minato-kun's seal that looks like a sower. Kushina was mumbling until she felt someone tap her shoulder and looked down to see little Karen looking up at her. "Excuse miss, are you in Uzumaki?" Karen asked, and that brought everyone's attention. "Yes little one, I am in Uzumaki." Kushina said and was rewarded to see Karen cute pout. "I am not little, but it is really cool that you are in Uzumaki like me." Karen said like a real child, which brought comfort from her cuteness to everyone else. Then Mito decided to get involved. "Hello little Kushina-chan, you have grown beautiful since I last saw you." Mito said and smiled at the woman's shocked face and turned to Karen, "And hello to you, fellow Uzumaki." Karen smiled that at least one of them weren't making fun of her age. "Hello to you too Miss Uzumaki. What is your name?" "Mine is Karen." Mito smiled that there is still the innocence of childhood within the children themselves. "I am Mito Uzumaki, Karen-chan. You might have heard of me being Hashirama Koi's wife." Mito answered, and Karen made a scrunched face as she tried to figure out what she meant. That is until something clicked in Karen's mind. "You are the wife of the first Hokage of Konoha. Does that mean we are in Konoha itself?" Karen yelled in her usual childish voice that Mito giggled at. "It is true that Hashirama Koi is the first Hokage, but I am afraid this isn't Konoha and any place in the outside world for that matter." Mito answered, and Karen felt a little down since she now wanted to live in the same village one of her ancestors lived in, while the village itself was young. Then Nagato didn't want to be left out any longer and revealed himself. "If we are not in the real world, then where are we and do any of you know this child?" Nagato asked, and everyone was wondering what he meant by child since Karen was the only child around until they saw an infant in Nagato's arms. Kushina thought the features on that baby were indeed familiar. "I came across him not far from where we are while you ladies were having your woman talk. Does the name on the blanket sound familiar?" "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze." That was it for Kushina. She took the infant from Nagato's arms and cried while clutching it. "Naruto. I thought I will never see you again." Kushina was so into her tears and keeping her son close to her that she didn't notice the others looking down on her while being left out on the details. "Excuse Kushina-san." Karen approached the tear-stricken mother and got her attention. "That boy is cute. Can I hold him?" Please. Karen even tried to use puppy eyes that only half of the women in the world can resist, while men have no hope of doing so. Kushina never bothered since it wouldn't be a good thing to do since she finally found relatives who say they all are Uzumaki. Of course, he deserves to be with his new family as much as I do. Kushina gave Naruto to Karen, who cooed how cute it was with that sun blonde hair and whisker marks that seemed to be real. But the cute moment was interrupted by a voice that was very familiar. "Greetings Uzumaki survivors. I have brought you here, inside the child's mindscape, because he will need all the help he can get on his own if he was going to recreate the Uzumaki clan by himself. This way, you can always be there when this child needs the comfort of family in times of self-doubt or when he is freighted. I trust him to place the fate of the Uzumaki clan on his shoulders, and I need your help to see that he succeeds. Good luck." As soon as that message was heard, the Uzumaki members looked at each other and nodded. They now knew why they were here and what to do as Naruto grows up. They then intended to grant the boy their respected gifts, but a better time than now. Soon, the mindscape was on the verge of breaking down, and the Uzumaki souls returned Naruto his original location so he can wake up in the real world. Once he gets there, the burdens and troubles are about to begin for young Naruto, but also friendship among the way. In Konoha, within the Hokage Tower, Hiruzen Sarutobi, who used to be in retirement, is now back in the Hokage's seat and wearing the clothes again. He hated that he had to go out of retirement because his successor had disappeared and his wife was found dead at Naruto's place outside the village. Hiruzen remembered that Minato told him that if anything should happen to him, the elderly Kage will have to see that Naruto lives a life as the son of the fourth Kage and treated like royalty. Unfortunately, it was not to be. Minato, I know you are still alive, but why aren't you coming back? You will go to the ends of this world to avenge your son for the treatment he is living now. If only someone can help me with all this paperwork, I can even adopt Naruto into my family if I have to protect him from your fans bent on killing the Kyuubi for killing you. Hiruzen mumbled as he reflected on how he knew that he is not actually following Minato's example and how he can't help it. It was the truth, Naruto lived the lowest of the low complete with pain and hating glares. He was first entered in the orphanage where he actually proved to be a big help by helping the owner handle the orphans younger than him. He will ask what they wanted to play and make sure they had fun. It worked a lot and Naruto thought he was on the right path to friends. However, the owner also hated the Kyuubi for making her an orphan herself, and that meant to people like her that in order to hate the Kyuubi, you had to hate the one that contains it. So, sooner or later, Naruto was kicked out of the orphanage when he was old enough to live on his own. He hoped that his friends could at least try to protest, but he was heartbroken to see that they also hated him, despite the times he spent helping them with their needs and fun. So, after 2 heartbreakers in a row, Naruto tried to make the best of it by living in the slums, and that meant eating out of the garbage and sleeping out in the open with the freezing winds. That was also when things got worse. While Naruto can tolerate the hateful glares and muttering bad things about him, but pretty soon, the civilians seem have become bolder or crazier to rally mobs to kill him. So, Naruto gained his own skills in speed and endurance from running from mobs that never give up, while he acquired the power to move about quiet and unnoticed, even though he was standing out like a sore thumb. It was true that he did since he was also banned from clothes stores, since the owners also hated him for the Kyuubi and would only sell him a hideously orange jumpsuit, hoping it would always make him seen by mobs. Naruto loved orange for a reason even he couldn't figure out, but he hated the jumpsuit and wished to wear something better since he couldn't get any friends without running away from it. This went on for a year since he left the orphanage at 3, since the owner could seem tolerate Naruto's presence there any longer that age. Since anyone at the age 3 could only walk, Naruto had to get support from the Anbu or even Hiruzen himself when he had time off during the day. It still isn't a good life for the blonde, but he went on since he was given advice from Hiruzen that if one can endure the bad things that just happen, good things will also happen. That is about to happen, just not in a way that anyone could ever imagine. I am telling you. I don't know what you are talking about. I was just trying to get something for my lunch. A boy who is wearing an orange jumpsuit is running for life and for the 1000th time in his whole life. Who cares about that? You kill my fiancé and you are going to pay for that. One of the mob members yelled in response. Yeah. You took my daughter from me. My father. My brother. My cousin. Naruto was just hearing all these yelling and accusations he doesn't remember doing, he never ever does. I didn't do anything. Why don't you all listen? Naruto was answered with a rock to the head, causing him to bleed. It is no use lying, demon. We know you did it and we are going to avenge our hero you killed. We are his legacy and we are going to be heroes after we kill you. Another member of the mob yelled in a rather mad tone, but no one ever noticed except for Naruto himself. Unfortunately for him, he took a wrong turn and ended at a dead end. Naruto turned to see the mob blocking the only way out. Heroes don't kill because of their own hatred. Bad guys do that. Don't you know that Naruto tried to make them see the light of their actions, but they are so full of hate and empty anger to listen as one of them got to him first brought down a metal pole down on his shoulder, sending immense pain through his body. And then, the mob got to Naruto was brought down tools of pain about to turn into tools of death, but there was something wrong about what they are doing, why isn't he dying? It is like every blow we deal, it is healed. One of them tried to pierce Naruto's leg with a dagger, but the wound kept healing within a single second. It must be the demon. We got to burn him alive. That will make him easier to kill. Another one of them proclaimed while carrying a torch, but before he could use it, the whole mob heard 2 words that were they are out of this world. Shinra Tensei, almighty push. The mob felt like the air itself was rejecting them as they were flung into walls and onto the streets, rather hard to break some bones and snap some necks. Only a half of the entire mob was left alive and they were still prescient on killing Naruto. The blonde himself was wondering how he did that and then noticed the wound on his head was not bleeding anymore, just wet with blood on top of a closed wound. What is going on? I am not hurt. Wait, what are these fuzzy things that I am feeling? They are making me have goosebumps, oh no. Naruto was interrupted from his pondering when he felt the need to move to his left, and a good thing he did because he narrowly dodged an explosive note and moved before it went off. But then he felt these fuzzy things again and saw the mob people charging at him despite some with serious wounds. In a panic, he felt something else and called on it. Then, chains emerged from his back and both bounded and pierced the armed civilians, ejecting them to the walls of the alley once again, and this time, they either fell unconscious or dead. Okay, this is definitely freaking me out. But who threw that note that went bang? Naruto was a mess as he tried to look to see who tried to blow him up when he felt a fuzzy thing again and moved to avoid a direct assault from a falling person. I knew you were a demon. How could you kill all these innocent people? The person revealed to be a shinobi by the headband with a leaf symbol on a metal plate. Innocent, they attacked me first and tried to kill me. I was trying to lose them to prevent something like this to them. Naruto tried to reason with what he just heard, but that guy was not in the mood to listen to him. Then the shinobi grabbed him by the neck and slammed him into the wall behind him. Shut up. I am hearing garbage and only demons speak garbage. You can't deny what you really are. Die. The mad ninja tried to thrust a kunai through Naruto's chest when the blonde felt something nagging at the back of his head and allowed to take over. When that happened, Naruto disappeared and reappeared on the opposite wall of the alley in a streak of yellow. You demon. You stole the jutsu of the fourth Hokage. You will die for your crimes to me. The shinobi moved for the kill this time, but before he could, another shinobi intercepted him and pushed a real kunai through his skull. He was dead like the other mad people trying to kill Naruto, but paid the price for it. Naruto was starting to lose conscious as he felt exhausted for some reason, but the last thing he saw were shapes and shadows that resembled people, and one of them was smaller than the rest, and he yelled for his name before the sounds became too muffled to make out. Finally, darkness settled in and blocked out anything else including sound. What happened was that Hiruzen saw that Naruto was attacked once again and deployed his Anbu to stop them when they all felt something else about this encounter. Like something was sleeping and now was awakened. They hoped it wasn't the Kyuubi breaking out of the seal, so the Hokage tagged along. When they arrived, they wasted no time to stop a fellow shinobi who was recognized as one of the few that lost a family member or two when the Kyuubi attacked 4 years ago. Then, they saw that they're dead civilians with weapons in their hands, but Naruto's blood was there too. Hiruzen ordered the Anbu to clean up the bodies and check Naruto himself. The verdict was that the blonde was only suffering chakra exhaustion, and after a good night rest, he should be fine. The only thing puzzling was how half the bodies were reported to have been thrown backward with enough force to break their bones and snap their necks. Other than that, the other half had wounds like they were pierced by arrows, but not a single one was found or even other evidence to support that theory. Everyone just pushed it out of the way for later and left to bring Naruto to the hospital and the blonde's private room in that building. Meanwhile, Naruto was wondering why the floor seemed wet and he was in an alley that hadn't had any rain in a week. Also, the room appeared to resemble a sewer, but Naruto was even near a manhole in the alley. Then where am I and how did I get here? The last thing I remember was everything going dark when I got all tried, I couldn't even keep awake. Naruto muttered to himself until the wind met him by the ear. There Naruto heard low snoring and the voices of people. Maybe there is someone who knows about this place and how to get me home. Naruto was suddenly excited despite being in a place he never knew existed. Naruto went in the opposite direction of the wind and the sounds kept getting louder, which meant he was getting closer to where he wanted to be. Finally, Naruto came across a door bigger than any other he has ever seen before. The voices are definitely on the other side of this monster door, but can I even open it? Naruto tried to think of what to do next until he noticed the wind creating a crack between the door and the doorway. He tried it out and found out that, despite its size, the door felt light as a feather. On the other side, Naruto saw people indeed, 4 of them to be exact, and they all seemed to have red hair. Naruto never saw anyone with red hair lest 4 of them in the same place. Hello. Naruto was a little scared that if they saw him, they would just call him nasty names and tell him to get lost. Instead, they all smiled at him. That was entirely new to the poor blonde. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, what are yours? Naruto asked as polite as he can in his fear and shock. He saw that politeness always gave him less than the half the beating if otherwise, so he tried to remain that from now on. Naruto was wondering what they were doing since he didn't get an answer, but the youngest one of them, a girl that looked like 12, went up to him and pushed him into an embrace. You are my little brother. You are so polite and cute. The girl yelled at the top of her voice. Now, Naruto had this happen before with the kids at the orphanage, before he was kicked out and forgotten, so he went a whole year without another hug. Thank you, what is your name? Naruto said while still drowning in shock and now confusion to how the girl who was 3 times his age called him her younger brother. My name is Karen Uzumaki. The young Karen introduced herself and Naruto widened his eyes that someone else had his last name as well. Your last name is Uzumaki like mine. Does that mean you are family? Naruto asked excitedly, yet at the same time, he begged for the answer to be yes. Of course. Wasn't it that obvious? Karen put it bluntly and saw that Naruto looked down. I did until people started laughing and said no, then they try to kill me. Naruto muttered, yet everyone else still heard it, and Karen hugged him while chanting I am sorry over and over. Then, Naruto felt another pair of arms around his body and looked up to see an adult woman this time. My poor baby. The woman yelled like a drama queen, in which Naruto felt a little peeved at the baby part. I am not a baby. But why did you call me yours? Naruto asked, and the red hair woman hugged him even tighter until he was suffocating. I am your mother. The woman yelled once again and Naruto froze in shock until he started laughing. Nice joke lady, but still your hair is very nice like Karen Ni-chan's. Are they made from rubies? Naruto said bluntly, but still Karen and the woman both blushed from the comment about their hair. I am not joking and thanks for what you said about my hair. Only your father liked it while everyone else made fun of me because of my hair. The woman said sadly that her son thought she was only making a joke when Naruto hugged her. Then tell me who they are so I can show them that are messing with the wrong person. Naruto yelled in a childish view on getting even. It was always something nasty, but Naruto had a talent for making anything seem cute, so the woman just hugged Naruto back, forgetting about her bad childhood. Thank you, but I won't want my baby to become one of them. The woman said gently and Naruto just frowned. I am sorry for breaking your heart, but if I called a stranger my mom, then it will never work out. I need to know you better so I can call you mom. Naruto shouted, which caused hearts to rise, and in this case the woman hugged Naruto once again, and this time, she shed tears of happiness. Thank you Naruto-kun. My name is Kushina Uzumaki. The red woman, now revealing her name to be Kushina, answered. Thanks Kushina Ka-chan for becoming my mom. I always wanted one. Naruto yelled in response. Has been a good day for poor Naruto, who was in the need for someone to treat him like an actual person and love him while she was at it. Yet, all great moments have to end, but not always in a way that ruins it. The two remaining Rinnegan came to the mother and son reunited along with Karen, watching with wet eyes and heavy heart on the sidelines. Hello, we would like to get involved too. Naruto turned and looked sheepish as he turned to face them fully. Sorry about that. My name is Naruto, what are yours? Why, that is very cute of you to ask that. Politly, the second woman cooed Naruto, making him blush in embarrassment and look away to hide his red face. Anyway, my name is Minato Uzumaki. Naruto was wondering why the name sounded familiar when the soul man of the group took his turn. My name is Nagato, and I was also thinking there weren't any more of my family like you Naruto-kun. Naruto just smiled and nodded. I am just glad that we finally meet Nagato Oji-san, Mito Oba-san. Naruto said, and the two Uzumaki spoken were confused by Naruto's choice of words in relation to their names. Naruto himself saw this and explained, well, I know from hearing teachers in their classrooms that Mito Uzumaki was the founder's wife, so that would make you my great-grandma, but that would be rude, so I am sticking to Oba-san if you don't mind. And Nagato Oji-san, aren't you Ka-chan's brother? Mito felt warm that Naruto was sensitive about how she would react to how her relation to him actually was in terms of her feelings to her age, while Nagato and Kushina just stared at each other in loss of response. Naruto saw this and felt like a real letdown. If you don't like it Ka-chan, Nagato-san, I will think of another way to call you. Naruto was regretting his view on Nagato, but both he and Kushina stopped him in his verbal tracks. No, it is fine. Nagato said, and Naruto was the one confused. I just never saw myself as a brother since I was the only child, but if it works, then I don't mind being your uncle. It gives me a good reason to take care of you like Kushina Ni-san wishes to as well. Nagato explained the real situation, in which Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. Okay Oji-san. Now can you tell me where I am and what happened? Naruto said as he almost forgot about what he truly wanted to ask when he first set his eyes on his new family. And he got his answer. Simple Naruto-kun, you used our gifts. Nagato said, and Naruto was a little puzzled about tea, but before he could ask, he suddenly turned to Karen, who was the one still left out on the action. Don't be sad Karen Ni-chan, come and be with us. Everyone was dumbfounded because they were actually looking at Karen but couldn't read her emotions, but a 4-year-old was able to do that, and even Karen herself was shocked about that ability. How did you know that I was sad while I was hiding my emotions? Karen asked, and Naruto made a lieu to show that he was also confused. I don't know. It was just suddenly I can see this flashily blue stuff that feels fuzzy in you guys, and there are a lot of them. That and this tinkling feeling about something like water flowing in people's heads, and it tells me what they are feeling or thinking of. I didn't want to lose it, so I let it guide myself, and it was never wrong. Naruto tried to explain to the best of his ability as only 4 years old. Everyone just smiled at how Naruto was acting his age, and it was cute. That was called sensory Naruto Nai-kun. Karen said, for she felt it was her turn this time. It is the ability to know where living things are and what they are thinking of, so in this world of ninjas, it is like a treasure, so not many people can gain it. I am a sensor myself because I knew where the people back home were and how to find them. So you mean that I can always know when people are coming so I can avoid them better? Awesome. Naruto began to jump up and down. It was his way of better using the burst of energy that came when he was excited. Sure Naruto-kun, but that isn't the only thing you were granted. You remember those chains that appeared out of your back? Karen asked and Naruto nodded, that was your mother's chakra chains. See Kirika's knees. Naruto was unfortunately lost at the hearing of big words like the last two spoken by his big sister. They giggled at his attempt to repeat the name. Chakra chains, they are even rarer than sensory, and we thought only your mother can use them. Karen explained until her little brother interrupted. I have a rare power, ha. Beat that, losers. Naruto was all about going to show off his new stuff when he heard the sound of clearing throats and realized he was interrupting rather rudely, so he sat down and hiding his face in shame. Yes, Naruto-kun, it is rare, and once you are able to settle down, Karen said in a tone that expressed her dislike for how impatient her little brother has become. You can use it as good as her, but we are not done yet. Karen looked at Kushina, Nagato and Mito, and they all nodded. That is true, Karen-chan. Listen, Naruto-kun, Mito spoke, and Naruto finally lifted his head to listen better, other than from sensing others' emotions. I can teach you Fuinjutsu, seal techniques, of my clan, so you use them for all kinds of purposes in regards to your surroundings and combat. Naruto nodded and wanted to ask, but saved it for the rest of the explanation when his mother went next. Sachi-kun, I am a great ninja at Kinjutsu, sword techniques, and I am more than happy to teach you my stuff with a sword. Naruto once again nodded and Nagato went last. As for me, I have a bloodline that was believed to be that of a god, as well as personal techniques of mine. This is one that really got Naruto confused at his uncle's choice of words to describe this so-called bloodline of a god remark. But if it is that powerful, then should it have weakness? Gigi once told me that every power has a weakness as big as itself. Naruto asked and Nagato nodded with a tone that described sadness but at the same time, relief. There's one. Nagato finally answered, it is true you possess it, but due to circumstances, it is only at a third of its full power, meaning you can only use 2 of the 6 main powers granted by the Rinnegan, but you seem to have been able to use the bonus ones, that means you can still have enhanced sight and mastery over all 5 elements. Nagato explained, but he felt like he set something big off when Naruto just couldn't take the excitement anymore and released it in a shout. Will I be able to make paper bombs and scrolls I can fit a house in? Will I be able to slice and dice everything with a sword? What does this bloodline do that it is so rare? Will I be able to move fast like lightning? Will I always know what people are feeling and thinking? Anything else was drowned the next letter until it was just unreadable jabbering that came out of Naruto's mouth. The Uzumaki just waited out until Naruto settled down to breathe again. Naruto-kun, we have a lot to teach you before we can explain out abilities, so you better paid attention. Kushina said in a strict tone that got her son rubbing his head sheepishly and he just sat down and stayed there. He then learned that there was a difference in time in relation to the time that passes outside. Naruto then was taught proper words and learned more manners on how to treat others including women. There he also learned that his parents asked his adoptive grandfather to tell him once he became powerful enough to protect himself. That plan went up in flames when Naruto revealed that he never lived a safe life from all those mobs attacking him every chance they get, so Naruto planned to present that to Hiruzen once he returns back to the world outside the mindscape. Speaking of which, it was Naruto's mindscape, so only he has the power to change how it looks and works. Naruto had changed it to the descriptions from Kushina and Mito, since he felt like they deserved to live in their homeland once again. This granted him thank kisses from his mother, aunt and older sister, since they were overflowed with joy and respect to the blonde for being so thoughtful. Soon, Naruto noticed that he couldn't maintain his presence in the mindscape any longer and asked what is going on. He was answered with, you were in the mindscape because you are asleep, and if you are about to wake up, you can't longer stay here until you fall asleep again. We will be waiting until then. With that said, Naruto saw that the mindscape had faded him out as he said his goodbyes until he would see them again. When Naruto finally woke up from his talk in the mindscape, he noticed that his clothes were replaced with a hospital gown, so he knew where he was and groaned, I hate hospitals. Well, you better get used to it by now, Naruto-kun. A voice appeared and Naruto knew it, the problem was to either smile or frown, so Naruto saved it for later. Hello Gigi. Naruto said in an emotionless tone that sounded like the real thing as Hiruzen flinched at it. What is wrong, Naruto-kun? Hiruzen said, he never saw the boy he saw as a grandson act like that. Spare me the questions, Gigi, I will be one asking them. Naruto said to get his point across, and the Hokage nodded, first is why you lie. I beg your pardon. Why did you lie about my heritage and my family line? Naruto repeated to be more specific. Hiruzen was at a loss on how to answer, well, I thought that if I can wait until you are strong enough to protect yourself, you will learn about your parents and the enemies they made in their lifetimes. Naruto surprised him by laughing, thanks Gigi, I needed that, and about your enemies, Naruto paused, and Hiruzen was wondering where the blonde was going to, I have plenty already, here in the village. What? You heard me Gigi. I have been on the run and I have been hunted down by the people you can't even touch, so why worry about gaining more enemies? It wouldn't make a difference in any way once I do learn about it. Naruto explained and Hiruzen could argue about it, besides, you have got to trust me if my father asked you to protect me. Hiruzen was confused on that, but I do trust you, Naruto-kun. Then why did you keep it all a secret from me? I could have learned that and kept it a secret to help you and your little paranoia. Naruto was definitely not talking like a 4-year-old, but that is because he expanded his vocabulary in the mindscape just before he woke up. You're right, Naruto-kun. Hiruzen finally gave in to Naruto's accusations that are as hard as steel. And I am going to give you the power to become the ninja you always dreamed of being. Really? Naruto converted to a carefree and energetic personality that best fitted a 4-year-old again, and instead of feeling awkward, Hiruzen smiled to see the child and his grandson once again. Thanks, Gigi. Come on. Let me see them. Naruto began to bounce round the room as he was too full of energy to keep still, and Hiruzen finally got a hold on him. First, we need to get you some clothes. Hiruzen said, and Naruto began to be sad again. But the stores will never sell me anything but that stupid jumpsuit that helps the mobs in finding me. Naruto said in a pout until Hiruzen laughed. Naruto-kun, I may be old, but I have not lost my touch yet, and that is why I am going to help you get a new wardrobe or a collection of clothes. Hiruzen explained and got his response in a once again excited Naruto hugging him in the chest. Thank you. Naruto bounced around again, and Hiruzen placed his hands in a seal which caused them both to disappear from the hospital room. Soon after, Naruto was back in the Hokage Tower wearing a black jacket, an orange shirt with red streaks, shinobi sandals, blue fingerless gloves and black pants that reached down to his feet. Now that problem is solved, I have my present for you ready to be given. Hiruzen said when he dove behind the desk and brought out some scrolls. These are scrolls on how properly awaken chakra, how to improve chakra control, some personal techniques of mine, and finally a sword that your mother gave me before she died. Thanks, Gigi. Naruto said when he grasped the scrolls and took some time to gain his balance back from how heavy they were, to which Hiruzen smirked at. I will do my best to use these and become the best ninja ever. Naruto then raced out of the office to a nearby training ground to try out his gifts from his family and adoptive grandfather. Hiruzen couldn't help but forget about his work and just stand to look out on the village. Maybe I let my love for my family to make me senile as well as old. Well, I better follow Naruto-kun's example and prove everyone wrong. Hiruzen felt like he was a kid all over again with all that excitement and energy to fuel it. It has been 5 years since that incident in the alleyway in which the Hokage labeled it as an act of treachery when one of the shinobi shown his colors to try and kill Naruto by also endangering the civilians that were holding him down. And speaking of the blonde, his life had changed even for the smallest amount. Naruto finally was able to gain an actual training routine from those ninja scrolls he got as a present from the Hokage. He had successfully awakened his chakra for real, so he can properly control it, and with the scrolls on chakra control, Naruto was able to freely manipulate his chakra, to which he can turn his now complete Rinnegan on and off. This also aided his skill in his chakra chains, as well as his Fuinjutsu skills that he learned from his mother and ancestor respectively. They both call him good enough to be an expert, which meant that the title of master would be his in only a couple more years. Other than that, he has been training how to use Kenjutsu from his mother by practicing with sticks and poles he hoped to earn. Now, Naruto was walking down the streets with a happy smile on his face. He just finally finished an advanced form of Kenjutsu just a few minutes ago. He felt like rewarding his efforts by going to his favorite restaurant, Ichiraku Ramen Shop. It was run by a friendly and an actual smart man named Tucci and his equally pretty daughter, Am. They never treated Naruto like the civilians who hated the Kyuubi did to him. Someone is in a good mood and I think I know what. That voice that only Naruto can hear had the attitude of a mother, and it is. After Naruto learned that his family members were now part of his own soul and can be seen within his mindscape, he was able to hear them when no one else can. This was because he is a Jinchuriki, and he learned that fact from his mother and aunt, who had become Jinchuriki as well as the fact that another thing that active Jinchuriki share is that they can enter a world that only them and the Biju that are trapped in their seals can enter. Of course I am happy, Ka-chan. I finally got down another level of cool Kenjutsu, along with all those awesome techniques to use because of it. Naruto still retained his love for learning things that are cool and awesome, but not one of his fellow Uzumaki relatives cared, because it is always refreshing and heartwarming to see the innocence and carefree attitude of when people are young. I just remembered that today is when I agreed to go on a date with Hinata-chan, and Konan-ni-chan said she wanted on the fun as well too. This day is going to be great and fun. Naruto was now covered in a glow that only the sun rivaled, and his tenants just shook their heads, yet no one noticed that, not even Naruto himself. Why did I ever ask? Kushina mumbled from within her own son's mindscape, but everyone else saw the smile on her face. At least he has a friend and a beautiful girl to love. Jinchuriki cannot exist without either of them. That is true, and I never get tired of remembering how it all happened. Nagato said as he reflected on how much his new nephew had received in comparison to his life before meeting him in person for the first time. Everyone else nodded and joined Nagato. Flashback begins. Phew, that was real training. I am glad I can finally do it. Naruto muttered to himself as he curled himself onto a rock. Now most boys would complain, but Naruto knew that if he was going to do that, all that painful waiting will all be for nothing, so he just bears the after effects of training. You know, I don't remember me saying things like that when I finally got training. A voice sprung in his head, but Naruto was used to it after so many times of jumping at the sound. I guess your desire to get strong is greater than I thought. Of course Ka-chan, the village tried to purposely make me weak and keep me like that. In a way, they were insulting your legacy and your family too. Naruto said back and had to feel the fury of his mother from inside his own head. Just keep the training up so I can see you prove them wrong in how they treated my son. Kushina yelled, and everyone's sweat dropped with a sigh that got her attention to her behavior as she chuckled sheepishly. Anyway, I better go to Ichiraku's for some delicious ramen. Naruto said while he had a migraine hearing how his mother craved for the noodles and soup in years. He found himself strolling through until he sensed some negative emotions regarding to fear and anger, but unlike the slums and mobs he had sensed before in his training, the victim also had a pure soul, almost like his. Naruto wanted to check it out, and he got his discovery in the form of a girl around his age, with a gang of bullies older than her cornering her. They talked about nothing but putting her in her place. Naruto won't have it and dove in with some punches and kicks that got the bullies packing. The girl now revealed herself to have moonlight raven hair and lavender pale eyes that shined of awe at how the boy with blonde hair came out of nowhere and saved her. Her thoughts were interrupted when she heard his voice. Hey. Are you okay? Did they hurt you in any way? Naruto sat down to her level and traced her hand over to search for signs of damage that only got the girl to blush like a tomato on a short fuse. His family were giggling in his head that their tenant was so oblivious to his own actions. Aw. My baby is so brave and caring. Kind too, but he is so oblivious like his father. I am having a hard time seeing something he has that reminds me of myself. Kushina squealed until she fell in depression on that last comment. All it took was Nagato placing a comfort hand on his sister's shoulder. At least you get to see the sweet stuff between you and Minato again, and this time it's you who gives the advice to Naruto about his new friend and possible wife. Nagato didn't know whatever to pat him on the back or hit on the head when he got Kushina on full gear on what he is going to tell her son about what to don on dates and such. Meanwhile, Naruto finished checking and made a sigh of relief. Looks like there isn't anything serious. I am really glad you're okay. Naruto said when he made his irresistible smile that successfully got the girl almost as red as the blood that is racing to her head, heart and face. Thank, why you? My name is Hinata. Hinata finally spoke and got Naruto all concerned again. Pretty name, mine is Naruto. The blonde answered, and he just added a lot of points in a game he never noticed he is playing in. Are you shaken up? You are having a hard time talking. Naruto asked, but Hinata would just daydream about her new crush and his concerning nature, so the blonde changed the subject to save face, and I mean both ways. Are you hungry? I was going to get some lunch, but I have enough money for two. Want to come? Hinata fortunately heard that and had thoughts racing in her head like so, if I say yes, then he would let me know him better and become my friend. I can afford to shut her like this. Hinata was determined to do that, but she still didn't trust her voice, so she just nodded. Great. Come on, let's get up. Naruto took Hinata's hand which got her blushing once again, and he finally got her back on her feet. Naruto made sure she will be able to walk until he got here racing with him towards the ramen stand. There, the owner and his daughter was delighted to see their best customer with a new friend and a rather cute one in their eyes. Good day Naruto-kun. Did your hard training this morning reward you with a girlfriend? Tucci asked much to their blushing which AM found cute. No way Tucci-san, we just met a few minutes ago. Besides, she is hungry so I brought her here for lunch. Naruto calmly and coolly corrected the friendly ramen cooks before helping Hinata to a seat to the left of his. So I would like the usual but hold back on the bowls because I would like a beginner's set for Hinata-chan. With that said, 3 reactions had happened under the same second. Gucci felt a little down since he started to rely on the fact that Naruto eats up to 20 bowls of ramen a day. But he wasn't going to be selfish since his best customer didn't want to pig out in front of his new friend who is a girl, and girls deserve not to see such things the same day they met a boy. AM was trying to hold in a squeal at how the boy who always called Ni-chan was actually thinking more about his new friend rather than his own meal. Other than that, she found it cute that Uratato called his new friend Hinata-chan, especially after only knowing her for a few minutes as he said. Hinata herself was lost in her world that her new friend and crush was practically treating her like a princess. She was also lost for words that her crush called her with Chan at the back of her name. It meant to her that Naruto also found her cute. She was so lost in thought, she didn't notice the bowl of starter ramen in front of her, but Naruto did. Hinata-chan, your ramen is getting cold. It is best to eat sooner never. Naruto said and Hinata's heart jumped when Naruto called her that again, but also saw her meal in front of her, so she managed to start eating as and not to embarrass her new friend. She never eats something as good as this, and she couldn't stop craving for more. Naruto found it cute since it happened to him when his Jiji brought him her for a meal years ago. After a delicious meal together, Hinata just won't stop holding Naruto's arm, which only made walking a little difficult. Naruto didn't mind, he was thinking about why Hinata gets so red for some reason. Then he halted, brought Hinata into his arms bride style, and disappeared from the streets of the village. Naruto reappeared on the Hokage monument with Hinata, finally having the time to blush in his arms. She was ranting in her mind that she was in Naruto's warm and strong embrace. The blonde himself was also talking in his mind while thanking his family for teaching him the Shunshin, a very helpful jutsu in his case. Then Naruto sat down and got Hinata comfortable in his lap. "Hinata, I have a secret to tell if you are going to be my friend." Naruto said and Hinata nodded, "This isn't the first time I have seen your face." With that said, Hinata was confused. "I actually first saw you when you were 3, before you were kidnapped." Hinata gasped at the memory. "At first I didn't realize the danger coming, all I could think about how cute and adorable you were at the age. I couldn't stop myself from trying to see it again, especially when you smile. It was one of the most beautiful smiles I ever seen and one of the very few in my life as well." Hinata was feeling like boiling over, but somehow she lost her full face blush when she heard that same statement. "Why you are really don't see similes that much?" Naruto shook his head. "No. All I ever see instead are glares and glances that tell me to get lost. When you are in my shoes, you want any attention including the negative type because it feels better than everyone treating you like you never even existed." Naruto explained and Hinata actually felt bad for her crush and that she couldn't do a thing about it. But just as she said that in her mind, "Don't be hard on yourself, you were being kept separate from me and told that I am not even there. I can't hate someone who is lied to and had their feelings hurt when they don't care about that." Hinata was shocked that Naruto actually knew what she was thinking. "There is a lot to tell you about me, Hinata-chan, so I want to be your friend so I can share them and help with your problems in any way I can." "Thank you, Naruto-kun." Hinata said until she realized something that Naruto also noticed. "Nice. You didn't stutter. That means you are making progress already." Naruto said in a cheerful tone that Hinata felt embarrassed by the praise, but the real thing had just started to be heard. "Hey Hinata-chan, can I say and do something so you wouldn't have to wait?" Hinata was confused by the question and she nodded without even thinking. Naruto went up to her ear and whispered "I like you" and kissed her cheek. Hinata had the biggest blush in her life yet, but somehow managed not to faint and hugged Naruto while crying tears of joy while silently chanting "I like you too" over and over. That was going to be the start of something that only the couple could dream of in their lives. Flashback ends. They were so cute together, so much it is like they are meant for each other. Kushina Kuta's her grandmother and Karen both joined in on the blushing and saying how cute it was, while Nagato just stood from the sidelines and placed his hands on his hips on how carried away are with Uzumaki women. "Yeah, but don't forget about what Konan-chan did to my nephew, that really helped the both of us out," Nagato remarked, and since they all still had time before arriving at the ramen stand to have one last flashback. Flashback begins. It was 2 years after Naruto started to practice his family gifts and is now at his own training ground trying out his Rinnegan powers. He found out that his diva path allowed him to manipulate gravity by attraction and repel of his targets, while his animal path allowed his to form many contracts with summoning animals and control them with his eyes by attaching black rods that he also discovered he could create. They act like chakra receivers, so Naruto can control anything living with these rods inserted. Shinra Tensei. Naruto faced an open palm of his right hand at a boulder found on the training ground and it rolled away before exploding on contact with the gravity forces. "I still can't the jutsu to cause it to explode once it first makes contact," Naruto muttered as he sat down to take a break when he heard the voice of his uncle call out to him. "Be patient Naruto-kun, it took me a good number of years to get it right." Naruto just sighed at the voice of his uncle. "Easy for you to say Oji-san, you had the Rinnegan with you as a whole rather than me who has only a third of that power." Naruto sadly said, he spent a few years on his bloodline that only his girlfriend Hinata knew because the blonde trusted her with such a powerful secret. Will I be stuck with this poor excuse for a bloodline that was used by the father of all ninjutsu forever? Inside the mindscape, Nagato was also troubled to answer, but felt like it was time to reveal one last secret about his nephew's bloodline that could pretty much change everything about the incomplete version Naruto is forced to wield. "No you don't because I think it is time to tell you another fact about your Rinnegan," Nagato said and he could see that Naruto was listening. Outside, Naruto looked like he was spacing out and instead he was listening to what he had to do. And Naruto thought of a way for it to work. He got up to find Hinata to tell her to come to his apartment despite the state it was in. After inviting her in and asking her to sit at table, he went to a window to wiggle his fingers until they were caught on something. "Is there something wrong Naruto-kun?" Hinata finally managed to stop stuttering, but that was only half of the problem solved that she was still unconfident in her sentences, so they are often found of stops and holes. Yes, Hinata-chan, we have an additional audience waiting for the right time to say hello after being a stalker since day one. Naruto answered in a confusing way of talking until everything became clear. The girl who seemed to be in her teens appeared in the room while trying to keep her hair in place. It seemed that Naruto was playing with it until she couldn't take it anymore and lifted her cover. After finally getting somewhere, she stood up to reveal her hair to be ocean blue with an origami flower attached in a bun on her right and wearing clothes that appear to have white clouds in the black surroundings. You were spying on us, what do you want with Naruto-kun? Hinata was so angry, she actually forgot about her nervousness even around her boyfriend. Yes, they actually made a relationship, but I couldn't find a better place to say this rather than here. She would have gone on when Naruto raised his hand sternly but also gently to silence her. Easy, Hinata-chan, I am sure she had a good reason to keep an eye on me. I remember how I would notice that those who attack me got off easy will never touch a newspaper or even be near one without screaming his head off and running away. Then I also noticed that whenever I get cornered in alley, anything made of paper will always disappear or be drenched in blood. Naruto explained while glancing at the woman the whole time who was a little flushed that she can be a little messy with her work. Sorry about my previous behavior, a lot of people have tried to steal my boyfriend away or just simply kill him. I was foolish to act on instinct. Hinata apologized while trying not to stutter since it will otherwise shatter any real determination behind those words. The woman waved it off. No, I was the foolish one to keep up the spying and stalking when I should have met your boyfriend face to face. The woman corrected Hinata who nodded, my name is Konan and I have a legacy I was tasked in giving to your boyfriend the same day he was born. My name is Hinata Hyuga. Nice to meet you, Konan-san. The two girls finally managed to clear any confusion between each other. For the next hour, the two women plus Naruto talked about everything including what she had witnessed years ago. Now Naruto-san, time to complete your bloodline. Konan said when she opened the scroll she had kept safe since that day long ago. She revealed the sealing matrix with the kanji for eye and unlocked the physical Rinnegan that was preserved fresh in suspended animation. Naruto allowed Konan to perform the surgery with Hinata helping him stay calm and relaxed during the session. After a few hours of inserting the powerful bloodline and connecting it to Naruto's nervous system so he can move them on his own will, and since he had Nagato's soul within his, he was able to switch between his regular eyes with the Rinnegan with very little difficulty. Congratulations, Naruto-san, you have the rest of your clan legacy with you and now the rest of your future ahead of you, Konan thought as she witnessed Naruto rejoicing with his equally excited girlfriend. The woman with blue hair wondered if she would be allowed to fit in with the family that has just been born. Flashback ends. And just like Konan thought, Naruto asked her to be his big sister since a mother role will be too sudden and too big a burden for the woman who only knew war. It was a rocky start, but Konan finally started to feel the warm feeling that can only be found within one's home. On the way, she also learned the pleasures of a happy and relaxing life she never thought she would experience. Also, Naruto managed to establish a weak but working link to his mindscape so Konan can still interact with her lifelong friend from the war. Currently, Naruto finally made his presence known at the ramen shop to his girlfriend and best friend who have been patiently waiting for him. Thanks sticking around, I had to lose 10 mobs that time. Naruto said in a regretful tone for keeping two fair women waiting because of his misfortune with the civilians that also live in the village as him. Hinata just smiled at how she knew that her boyfriend hated to keep her and any woman for that matter waiting. Don't worry, Naruto-kun, we haven't been waiting long. Hinata said comfortingly while Naruto placed himself on a stool inside the ramen stand. His expression was still there. I still feel bad that I had the misfortune to live a life of hiding from my life and being late for dates. Gigi keeps on saying that good things will come if I keep waiting, but I may not have the time to do that when the mobs find me again, it is still too soon to protect myself. Naruto muttered sadly when he noticed that Tucci placed a bowl of his favorite ramen in front of him and that his precious girls were hugging his arms. They spoke not a word, but Naruto was smart enough to see that he was being a fool for only thinking about the negative side of his life when he should remember the other side, too. It is a hard thing to do, see life as a whole rather than one half or the other. At least he was right, Hinata said, and Naruto looked at her in curiosity. Next week, we are finally allowed to enter the academy, and with good luck, the two of us get to be classmates, while Konan-chan gets to become a real ninja to afford our own house that is really a home for all three of us. Hinata answered, she agreed with Naruto that he can't live a healthy life or have a family in an apartment that should have been torn down years ago. She also managed to make a close friendship with Naruto's older sister when the blonde finally got the girls to share their time with him or make theirs equal to the other. Yeah. Let's do this. That was all Naruto said since that evening when he walked towards home with his girls going to their homes, that is until they can buy a place that is big enough for all of them in the near future. It is another day in Konoha and everyone went onto their daily chores, but for a certain man and his two precious girls, it was the beginning of something big that could pretty much benefit their lives. Today, Naruto and Hinata get to enter the academy. Now if you think we can find our blonde hero in the slums but not today, he was up early heading to where he can see his girlfriend without trouble with her clan, the park. Once he arrived, he saw his precious girl sitting on bench waiting patiently for him. Good morning Hinata-chan. Hope I didn't keep you waiting too long. Of course not Naruto-kun. I just got here myself. Hinata was doing so much better the longer she hanged out with Naruto, all the way to barely blushing at all, only when Hinata is extremely embarrassed about something. Let's just enjoy this before we start to do some real training to be a shinobi once we enter the academy. Naruto said and Hinata nodded. Their date went along just fine to their hidden surprise. No one boos at them, no glared at them, and one tried to separate them. It seemed that they have given up on the worthless heiress to the noble Hyuga clan and they were just waiting for Naruto to kill her in order to prove their fears about him were true. On their date, they went through the entire park and listened to all the animals doing their own business, birds chirping, chipmunks and squirrels gathering food and fish swimming the ponds were all to be seen and heard in the park. After the park, they went to their favorite restaurants for lunch, a fancy one that Hinata was afforded with her allowance, as she is still the heiress to her clan, and the staff welcomed her for some reason. Naruto explained that he chose the place because the staff didn't hate him. He admitted to have protected them all rapists and thugs that tried to rob them in the alleyway surrounding the back door. After that was to the bakery that had cinnamon buns which were Hinata's favorite dessert. With full stomachs, they went to where they could see the village in the light from dusk and also try to count his stars on top of the Hokage monument. They stayed that way until close to midnight when it was time to return home and into their beds. Still sleeping was hard with all the excitement and anticipation for starting the academy. Who knows what great days were going to come and all that amazing stuff about shinobi to learn. Now Naruto wished he didn't speak so soon, he is now bored to death in his classroom with Hinata taking a nap next to him. So far, the academy only taught history of shinobi and the basics in which the clan heirs were taught already, so the civilians had no way of knowing. It was like the academy is focused more on converting civilians into shinobi overnight or something. It is all account on the civilian council. They have seized control over every shinobi related, claiming that they deserved it for being on the council, but they were just stealing those rights from the Hokage, whose kind old man personality had made him gullible and afraid to take action. They all said that it was time for the civilians to become shinobi, and their idea of becoming such warriors was to be well knowledgeable in every topic related to shinobi work, as well as the other stuff that civilians had found useful like mathematics and history. Not that it is all bad, but to ask a shinobi on how to use that stuff was like trying to ask a bee to give some honey as a bear, impossible. Since this disgusted the couple, they decided to train in secret until after school. Hinata will try out the various low-rank jutsu with Naruto training his new abilities. This went on until a year had passed. Naruto had moved up 2 more levels in Kenjutsu and Fuinjutsu, he had shared that with Hinata, and she managed to beat the basics, about to move on to the more intermediate stuff. Hinata also secretly got down a technique named the 8 trigrams. 64 palms which allows her to effectively shut down a target's nerve system in impactful strikes. She was hoping to get down another technique that the Hyugas credited as their own, the Kaiten technique was a protective dome of energy. Hinata had found that storage seals and daggers were fitting her style of fighting just right. Continuing on to Naruto, he also trained more in his Rinnegan with the help of his uncle. He almost was able to use all 6 paths, but pretty soon, he will have to train to use more than just one of them at a time. Meanwhile, Naruto had finally gotten healing jutsu done as well as his mother's chakra chains. In fact, Naruto had a good idea on how to use these chains for offense. It promised to be deadly and can take opponents by surprise, the only way to bring out the strongest in ninja techniques. Things looked good on the side and also guaranteed that the useless and boring academy days will be over, in its place will be the real shinobi times for real shinobi training. There was just one problem that is related to the academy, he threatened to make this way terrible, as well as making them feel worthless. Hey dope. Naruto looked from his lunch with Hinata to see the class emo and brooder with his fan club of blind loyal followers, Sasuke-cha. For the last time. It is either that you will surrender your techniques or I will have to take your little girlfriend. Sasuke was pampered by the village all the way to believing that he was blessed by God and anything he wanted was his right away. He even had the belief that everyone was alive because he allowed them to and they just didn't thank him at all for it. Of course, Naruto and the other boys along with Hinata were better to believe that garbage, but instead all the girls in the class were heads over heels for Sasuke, all because they were told they will get all the wealth left to Sasuke by his recently deceased clan. And speaking of which, Sasuke just broods either at school or at home, he is thinking of ways to get strong enough to kill the one man who had massacred his entire family while leaving only him to live. Itachi Uchiha, who had been a prodigy and a captain of the elite force Anbu, and also Sasuke's older brother. It is lunchtime emo team. Not fight time. Go and let your fans feed you like a king or something. No way for someone as important as you to be even near such commoners as us. Just imagine what the civilian council will do when they find out that Sasuke has been a bad boy. Naruto always get his laughs and kicks from humiliating and teasing Sasuke back every time that the Uchiha threatened to kill him or rape his girlfriend. Everyone laughed at how Sasuke went blood red and huffed before returning to his reserved table with all his fangirls following after him like ducklings. Hinata always hated Sasuke for all the times he tried to spread bad rumors about her boyfriend, tried to flirt with her, or even threatened with his power over her clan that he claimed to have, but she was better than all those fangirls enough to train harder so she can prove that she can be a good shinobi who will protect herself. As for why Sasuke looked at Hinata with lust once he started to mention her, once he gotten his eyes on her developing features and increasing confidence, Sasuke knew that Hinata was better than the girls who threw their slim and flat chests for him to use for a bed and blanket. Of course that meant for him that Hinata was the better catch to treasure and that he was the only one to keep her. Sasuke won't let it go even after seeing that Naruto had gotten Hinata's heart first. To this day, he wanted to wedge Naruto's love for Hinata in order to get what he wanted, and so far that never worked as Naruto will always come up with a loophole out of the threatening offers. Then finally came that day when the Genin exam finals were about to happen, and that will mean for them that the children will be paired off in their teams based on guidelines that made no sense. Things such as pairing the rookie of the year with the best girl and the class dope in order to encourage healthy rivalry that will bring out the best of them all. Like with the potential trackers all on team while leaving none on the other teams, and like pairing the heirs to 3 clans that were also part of a legendary team altogether. Hinata wanted to be on a team with a heavy hitter that will be Naruto, a tracker that will be her and her Byakugan, and with a healer to back up the team. Dope. You better wish that Hinata will be on my team because if she doesn't, I will make sure that your team will always fail. Leave it to the bully Uchiha to threaten Naruto at something that hasn't even happened yet. It was only proof of Sasuke's lust and how powerful it was. The couple just ignored him and left earlier before he could do anything else, and when Iruka Umino, the homeroom teacher, tried to stop them, Naruto said. A ninja only waits for their prey and nothing else. We are only going to get some training done as well can or we will be unprepared. It is what a ninja will do, right? That was enough to win over Iruka, who was also disgusted about the academy as Naruto and Hinata were, but just didn't say a word about it for the sake of keeping his job. The other students followed in suit as most of them were serious about being shinobi so much that they preferred to flow words that actually mean something in their career. Iruka even finished class earlier, hoping to cause the remaining students see that too. Of course that was a chance as slim and thin as a piece of angel hair pasta, not very good chances to say the least. Sure enough, there were only some students who were prepared to pass, the others thought that they can rely on luck or in the fangirl's case their loyalty to Sasuke will allow them to pass. The first one was a written test on all those lectures and when Naruto got his, the voices in his head came to life. Be careful Naruto. There is a clear genjutsu on that test. It seems that Mizuki is trying to make you see wrong choices and cannot read the questions right. Nagato pointed out and Naruto smiled for seemingly no reason to the others. Naruto silently lifted the genjutsu on the test which allowed him to pass it once he got the results back. It will seem that Mizuki's plan didn't work. And neither did it during the aiming test with kunai and shuriken where Kushina noticed that Mizuki tried to sabotage Naruto's attempts by stringing the weapons with clear strings to cause them to miss. Naruto had cut them before anyone could notice them and so he got a perfect score anyways. Now was time to do the 3 main jutsu of the academy. The Henge no Jutsu, the Kawarimi no Jutsu, and the Bunshin no Jutsu. If they could pass it, they are out of the academy for good. Hinata, Sasuke and the other heirs got it right, as well as a civilian girl named Sakura Haruno. Naruto and Hinata never trusted her for being so obnoxious and loud. But Naruto surprised everyone by using the Henge no Jutsu to turn into a complete and real-like replica of the Hokage, complete with pipe and smoke. The blonde used the Kawarimi no Jutsu to switch places with Mizuki, while in mid-flight for some laughs, that topped off with Naruto doing it again from Mizuki's chair, causing the teacher to crash into it. Finally, Naruto used a Bunshin no Jutsu to create 20 clones, as that is the least he could make with so much chakra for such a simple and low-level jutsu. Still Mizuki wasn't done with Naruto, as when the couple was returning home after qualifying to be genin, he went up to them. Congratulations, Naruto-kun. You really showed us but your potential is to be wasted unless you take this test that only the best academy students can actually pull off. Mizuki acted friendly, but he still gave off this vibe of hatred and deceit for the couple to see clearly. Yet Naruto wanted to make something clear, and this test was to be the best way to do it under such short notice. Be careful Sachi-kun. There is still a chance that you will be caught and you can't bring Hinata-chan along because she could get caught instead. Naruto silently sighed at how protective his mother was all the way in his mind, and the worst part was that she was right about that. Fine Mizuki. I will take it while Hinata-chan goes home. I must do this all by myself. Naruto answered, which made Mizuki nod. This is great. I can kill the brat first, while Uchiha-sama gets to have his way with a little traitor of an heiress. Mizuki took Naruto along to say the objectives of the test in private, while Hinata went the long way home on Naruto's secret order. She trusted him to obey those commands, since it had to be heard only by her. After an hour had passed, Naruto was found to be a forest outside the boundaries with an oversized scroll he was reading. He had another scroll nearby where he was fast pacing while seemingly copying the notes from it. Then Naruto sensed some coming, and he was only able to copy 4 jutsu from the scroll onto his own that he managed to hide in his jacket. It turned out to be Iruka. There you are, Naruto-kun. I heard from Mizuki that you have stolen the sacred scroll of sealing from the Hokage Tower. Why did you do it? You already proved yourself worthy of becoming genin. Iruka was disappointed that his student had done something like this. But before Naruto could even speak, a giant shuriken came out of the blue and nearly hit either of them. They all turned to see Mizuki with another giant shuriken on his back. Hello, old friend. I knew that you will be able to find the brat, so following you was a piece of cake. Now I can kill the brat and you in the process. What do you mean? Naruto faked being the scared and clueless brat to lure out Mizuki, who seemed confident like he thinks he has gotten his prey out where he wanted them to be. Why? Because you are no boy. You are the cause of everyone's troubles. You are evil from the day you were born. Mizuki started to rant like a madman that caused Iruka to panic. Don't. It is forbidden to say it. He tried to stop his friend from saying like the taboo, but Iruka only slashed in the process, which caused Naruto have rage to build up in his system. Meanwhile, in another part of the village, Hinata was still on her way to her home when out of the shadows. Hello, Hinata. Sasuke Uchiha had appeared with a look of confidence himself that crept Hinata out. I thought you were at home in bed where we are supposed to be after dark. Hinata said, and Sasuke chuckled. I couldn't sleep and I bet you probably couldn't, so I came to keep you company, seeing how your boyfriend has left you hanging dry. Sasuke taunted, which made Hinata realize that special test was just a lie to get herself alone, so Sasuke can try to hit on her. Worse, he is about to right now. So at least give me a kiss, seeing that your boyfriend has left your lips hungry for your first kiss stolen. Don't worry, you will love it, and our future is ruling the village together. There was pure lust in his voice, and Hinata tried to flee, but Sasuke stopped her. I knew you were weak-minded, that is how that dope had lied to you, so I have no choice but to free you like this. Sasuke then lowered his lips to kiss Hinata, who screamed and tried to break free. At the same time, Mizuki had faced Naruto thinking he had gotten the blonde boy in shock. You see, you brat. It is all because of you that I had slashed my best friend, and I will kill you and become a hero for killing you, and you want to why? Naruto didn't say a word. You are the Kyuubi that have attacked our village to kill us all. It is all your fault. You are a fool, Mizuki team. Naruto then spoke in a calm tone that was the opposite of what Mizuki had hoped. I know that the Kyuubi still lives, and I will not stand that you succumb to your madness, hurt others, and blame it on your hatred that you are weak to rid your mind off. Naruto then shifted his hand towards Mizuki. Meanwhile, another hand was facing Sasuke on Hinata. Shinra Tensei. Shinra Tensei. The force on Mizuki was enough to repel him into many trees until he stopped in front of one with broken bark, but he had blacked out because of the impact. With Hinata, the force didn't seem to affect her and only repelled Sasuke off of her and into a wall where he fell unconscious. After the Naruto finished tying up Mizuki, he puffed into a cloud of smoke. That Naruto in the forest was simply a cage bunch and paced there cleverly by the real Naruto, who had been watching over Hinata the whole time. And speaking of which, the blonde hugged Hinata, who was scared after her near-rape experience. Naruto's only regret that night was to get Hinata involved in something that women fear the most about becoming shinobi. Mizuki was just dead weight for the clones, but Naruto had other plans for this soon-to-be rapist of an Uchiha that tried to take what was his. No one tries to steal a fox's food without being bitten in the retreating end. Later, after Mizuki was tied up and left to be found or eaten depending on which will happen first, Naruto was dragging the knocked-out Sasuke to the door of Ino's place. Thankfully her parents were at a late-night meeting and won't be home for another hours with only their daughter inside. Naruto knocked on the door and Ino herself emerged. Good evening, Ino. I need to ask of a favor. Ino was confused by that request until she saw the limb body in question. Sasuke-kun. Ino was one of the more major fangirls that once broke up a friendship in order to gain an advantage in getting Sasuke's feelings. What did you do to him? Naruto silenced her before she could wake up the whole neighborhood. Nothing that will kill him or erase. Anyways, do you know of a technique that erases memories? Naruto asked the favor, and Ino was now confused again instead of frightened. She nodded. Yeah, the Kainen Fuku no Jutsu, memory wipe technique. It is one that Dad had shown to me, but not use it unless for the right purposes. Naruto agreed. Yes, and this is one of them. You see, we all found out that the civilian council had planted false feelings into Sasuke that made him into a rapist who tried to attack Hinata-chan behind my back. Naruto begun and already Ino was starting to see the point. No woman, not even a fangirl, can ever still be loyal after finding out their crush was a rapist, an event he victim in question could verify it. But if you will erase all those by wiping his mind clean of memories to the night before the Uchiha massacre, there, Sasuke will gladly want to be your friend and we will count on you to help him catch up from being trapped in his own mind all those few years. That was the plan and Ino was loving it already. Taking Sasuke inside the compound, Ino got to work on preforming the jutsu. Can you at least help me when I fall since this jutsu demands a lot of chakra and I have only as much? Naruto nodded. He and Hinata can both help supply the chakra needed with the help of the Byakugan to guide Naruto's surplus energy into Ino's chakra coils being used. After about a half hour, the jutsu was done and Ino only felt like lying on her back but wanted to be the first one to be seen by Sasuke when he wakes up under the impression of being hypnosis or something. Either one was going to score points for Ino with the Uchiha. Where am I? Sasuke looked like he woke up from a bad dream outside his bedroom and he saw a lovely blonde girl looking down on him. Whoa, are you? You look like an angel without your halo and wings. It was clear that Sasuke not only was reverted to the memories of his childhood but also his once friendly and childlike personality. My name is Ino Yamanaka. I am part of the mind-walking Yamanaka clan and my friends and I have freed you Sasuke. Ino was a fangirl but she was still smart enough to pull an impressive acting job. Freed me? From what? Sasuke asked not even noticing Naruto and Hinata next to him. Someone wanted your family but couldn't get what he wanted, so he killed them and framed your older brother for it. He even tried to make you a bully who wanted to kill your remaining family. Ino gave a half-lie that worked as Sasuke began to cry like a child who saw his favorite stuffed doll being tore apart. Who was it that did this? And where is my brother now? Sasuke started to cling to Ino like a lifeline who blushed at the gesture but kept her composure somehow. We don't know because he left nothing left behind to tell who it was, but the village had been looking for the time you have been controlled. He could even be in this village, hiding in the shadows as we speak. Sasuke was getting scared. Don't worry, he doesn't know that you had been freed, and as for your brother, we don't know where he is now, but I can guarantee you that he is still alive and just doesn't know about any of this either. Then what should I do? Sasuke was like a lost child for sure until Naruto finally spoke up. You stay here. Sasuke saw people who were strangers to him now. I am Naruto Uzumaki and this is Hinata Hyuga. We all helped Ino free you. We are friends and we will help you make up for that lost time. Don't worry about what others have to say, they will see the real you sooner or later. Hinata, who should hate him for trying to rape her, had nodded which made Sasuke smile as happy as a child who was told that he will get another gift soon if he behaved. Thank you all for freeing me and wanting to be my friend. That is all I ever wanted. Sasuke said as he fell asleep in blushing Ino's arms, who then resorted to a new and quieter definition of a fangirl, not to wake him up. Despite that Sasuke had simply lost his memory on purpose, everyone could like this new version on the Uchiha. Ino thanked Naruto and Hinata for the chance to at least be Sasuke's friend before leaving the compound and into the night that will be followed by a revolution for sure. When it was the day that the genin will be grouped into teams, everyone was wondering where 4 of them were not here yet. Sakura was both amazed that she had beaten her rival and dismayed that her crush was not in the room yet. Kiba was wondering where the blonde that he usually hangs out with, the rest of the genin that actually tolerated Naruto, were also in the same boat. Then the door opened to a rather interesting sight, Sasuke shivering behind Ino like a scared child behind his older sister, and next to them was Naruto in question, wearing a much better outfit than that hideous orange jumpsuit that he usually did, but he also had Hinata relaxing on his arm that she clutched as if it was a lifeline. The reactions took a few seconds, but they all went off at once. Kiba was ranting out of his mind that the emo had turned over completely in terms of personality and Naruto glad given up on his crush on Sakura while Akamaru was wondering why the scent on them all had changed. Shikamaru was too shocked to even be bored. Shino had to use his fingers to catch his falling glasses and Choji nearly choked on his chips. But the real icebreaker came when, Sasuke-kun. I will save you from the pig. Sakura charged towards Ino who tensed and Sasuke cringed even more, but the pink-haired girl never noticed until she was slapped on the face. Now no one couldn't get their eyes off of Naruto who looked disgusted and disappointed in Sakura, emotions that one will never even dare show in the face of their crush. You had that coming for a long time Haruno-san. Don't bother us until you finally learn how to be a better excuse for a soon-to-be kunoichi. Hinata gripped her hand on Naruto's, effectively cutting down the increasing air pressure that somehow began to settle in the room after Naruto began talking down Sakura. What do you know, Baka? Sakura was still not dropping it. I am glad that you have finally stopped bothering me, but now you have shown your true colors as a demon for lying to the Hyuga heiress. You really are a monster. A fiend, eh? Stop that. Sakura cringed at that volume of voice that everyone thought that will never be heard in ever. They all thought that Sakura had a greater voice than any student or even teacher. The greater surprise was who made it, Sasuke. Stop saying those things to my friends. You bully. Sakura then froze and paled, like she turned to stone. Then, to stop anything else, Iruka had arrived and saw what had happened, while his students were wondering why he was covered in band-aids and scratches with a huge bandage around his chest. I see that Sakura tried to ruin our days again. Just go to your seats except for you, Sasuke. The Uchiha never stopped the surprises by cringing and looking like he was caught stealing a cookie out of the jar when denied of one. Naruto just patted him on the shoulder and gave him a reassuring nod before seating down with Hinata next to him. Ino went to other open seats while trying to make sure one next to her was still open for a certain boy. Now I am not saying you are in trouble, Iruka tried to stay on Sasuke's good side despite the oblivious change in character, while the Uchiha nodded. I just want to know if the rumors I hear about you pulling a 180 overnight and that you are now going out with one of your biggest fangirls. She is a great girl once she gets focused and determined about something. I just wish that everyone will not misunderstanding my new friends. I owe them for freeing me. I was about to do something terrible to Naruto's girlfriend against my own will. Sasuke said, still under the half-lie that worked out perfectly. Naruto is good with making lines, and Ino was good of making them sound sincere. Seriously, those two with Hinata as the silent actor could become big in the movie industry. I don't hear any lie in that voice, but I will have to hold off the team assignments for the sake of an examination. Iruka was about to listen to his class's yells of protest, but like before, Sasuke had surprised him when he beat the class to the punch. But they have been waiting to get into teams all their lives. Can this examination at least wait? The genin, except for the trio he came in with, were shocked to hear such selfless and considerate words out of Sasuke's mouth. They were all used to the self-centered emo that was going to be this year's Rookie of the Year, all because the civilian council had tampered with the academy to ensure that Sasuke was treated the best only in Konoha and nowhere else. Alright, Sasuke-kun. After I call the teams, then you will have the examination, and if you all don't mind, I will have to say that to our visitor. I will just be a minute. A minute was enough for Sasuke to walk past all his fangirls and sat next to Ino before leaning on her. I don't know how you did it, Ino Buta, but I will find out your secret and have Sasuke got out with a real girl like me. Sakura still complained and was only when she was hit in the neck with a book that she finally shut up. We didn't come here this early in the morning just to hear you complaining. We all finally are ninjas and we even have a new and improved Sasuke Uchiha. You better move on since it is clear that you have already made a bad impression of yourself. Naruto said in a harsh tone that still got the boys cheering on for a change. Yeah? You tell her, blonde. You might just prevent us from going deaf. Kiba laughed and pretty soon the whole class was laughing at Sakura. She had become too humiliated to even scream, so she just sat in her seat, hoping they will stop laughing at her like they always did when she was much younger, and before she met Ino, she reflected on how ungrateful she was to Ino, who was the only girl who wanted to be her friend, and Sakura replayed her by breaking that friendship to become a fangirl, the more shallow version on what everyone else thought of her. Maybe it will be best to not rely on others for her direction in life, only to do things on her own, and when her way doesn't work, then she will improve on her way of doing things. Iruka then returned with a clipboard in hand. Sorry about that small delay, I will begin to list off the ninja teams. Iruka then finished off the first 6 teams that were all civilians until, now team 7 will be. Everyone was tense about this one. Sasuke Uchiha, every fangirl leaned in including Ino. Biba and Yuzuka, their hopes were almost dashed, while the said dog tamer raised his eyebrows after seeing that Sasuke was waving at him, and Ino Yamanaka. It seemed that what happened last night was reflected upon this moment. Sasuke felt like Ino was going to be the girl for him after how she nearly exhausted herself to death in order to free him from being manipulated. Now team 8 will be Naruto, Uzumaki. Iruka continued, and Hinata was crossing her fingers. Shikamaru Nara, the said boy, had finally found something to be lazy about and call his trademark catchphrase troublesome, and Hinata Hyuga. The couple looked at each other and smiled before embracing each other. It seemed that they tried to convince the Hokage about their own format for a ninja team, one that is capable of taking any type of mission that includes capturing and hunting. Team 9 is still in circulation, so we will skip that one, and now team 10 will be Shino Aburam, Choji Akimichi and Sakura Haruno. This time, no one even protested, not even the pink hair girl. She was already humiliated, and now she was under the glare of the other students, just daring her to try something she will later regret. After Iruka had paired off the other teams filled with civilians, the door opened to reveal a blonde man that seemed to an older and more boy-like version of Ino. He ignored the stress and looked up to Sasuke. So you have called me here just to examine the sudden change in character with the young Sasuke. Don't you even trust your students better than that? Inoichi Yamanaka was the head of the Yamanaka and their best skilled ninja in their mind-walking arts, as well as Ino's father. As such, he was the best choice to exclaim someone's mind for any deflects that could explain sudden changed behavior. Yeah, and his teacher is Kakashi Hade. I got it all from the Hokage himself. Take your time. Inoichi nodded and took Sasuke to a private room. For the rest of you, please wait here for your teachers to arrive. You will know when the Jonin speaks your team number. Iruka explained and then brought a speech about missing his students, and they could only run into him again at the academy, looking at them grow up and improve into legends at their own right. After some time, a beautiful woman with modest kunoichi clothes one as well as noticeable ruby red eyes had entered the room with another Jonin by her side that was smoking a cigarette much to her disgust. He on the other hand, had more refined shinobi clothes, like he was more pampered than the woman, but not to the extent of the old Sasuke. Teammate please come with me. Team 10, you are with me. The woman and man said in that order so the teams respectively followed after them. The other teams left leaving Team 7 with Sasuke not present in the room. Meanwhile, in another empty room in the academy building, Sasuke was sitting on a chair with markings making a circle around his position, while Inoichi was shifting his hands in weird ways that Sasuke only saw his brother use. Now you are not in trouble or anything, I just want to verify your friend's stories, since shinobi have twice the ways to lie than civilians. Sasuke nodded but was still worried, and if it doesn't, what is going to happen to my new friends? Will the civilian council really hurt them? Even your daughter? Inoichi noticed that Sasuke was already a different person because the Uchiha brat that he was used to will never speak in such a way. If they want to then they will have to go through my dead body, but let's begin. Just relax because this jutsu is not harmful, but only requires you to keep an open mind for me to do my job better. Think you can do that? Inoichi asked and Sasuke nodded before doing an impressive acting job of being a statue. The Yamanaka clan head took in a huge sigh before placing his hand on Sasuke's forehead and used the jutsu. This meeting will now come to order. The Hokage roared from his seat in the council room. On his left side sat the civilian council who supposedly handles the civilian affairs like building construction and trade between other villages, but lately they have been having power over more shinobi matters for no good reason. On the right side, the shinobi council were stationed and they were not happy that the civilians were stealing their power while the Hokage doesn't do a thing about it. What is it Hokage-sama? We were about to see our children become shinobi before you pulled us in this stuffy room for nonsense. One of the civilian council members had the guts to insult the Hokage and complain about the meeting. Silence. The council members cringed to the sheer volume of that voice. I have a good reason for forming this meeting and you are the basis of it. Hiruzen Sarutobi, of the now almost extinct Sarutobi clan of staff mastery and skill in the fire manipulation, was not happy with his inconsiderate and rash council members think that they ruled the village. To start things off, you all of the civilian council are fired. You will not be able to control anything in the village, and if you try to stage a revolution, then I will not let my Anbu hold back on you. What? We are helping the village. You can't fire us. I said silence. The Hokage quelled the shouts of protesting and foolish civilians. You say that I can't fire you? I rule this village. I am the law because I am the Hokage. You will follow my every word. When I say jump, ask how high. When I say run, ask how far. This is my village and as the Hokage, it will stay that way. Anbu. Hiruzen summoned his elite into the open, they have tried my patience too far. Kill them. Don't. We're sorry. Don't kill us. In the end, the civilians were nothing but greedy cowards like they all acted until they lost their heads to the silent and harsh coldness of the swords that behead them. The shinobi council members, who had seen plenty of blood before today, were glad this is happening, while 3 more council members were not. They were the advisors of the Hokage, who demanded they could make their own orders as to Naruto's life, Homura Midokado, Kaharu Utatane and Danzo Shimura. Hiruzen, you have gone senile for sure. Danzo always used the leverage of being the Hokage's most trusted friend from the war they all fought in order to get what he wanted. That is Hokage-sama to you wrinkled old bags. I don't care what I owe you from the war or when we were teams. You were the ones who went too far with young Sasuke-kun. I have got valuable proof that you tried to make him an avenger by filling his head with nonsense about his clan. He could have completed treason once he gotten too powerful with his unstable mind, all thanks to you. Hiruzen was not taking any of this garbage from liars and senile greedy ones that is all just rumors that the demon brat had come up with to make Sasuke-kun look bad. It is all just lies. The civilian council tried to cover up his charges by showing their hatred for Naruto. And speaking of whom, Hiruzen just smirked and summoned him to appear along with Sasuke. Hear that Sasuke-kun, they all say that your words are nothing but lies. Naruto said and the boy nodded before setting his eyes on the advisors. That's them. They are the ones I last saw before I was crowded. By them. Sasuke cried out like a person who searched for something all his life had finally found it. The civilian council was shocked that their prized boy will actually vote against them. It was all possible for Sasuke to get so bold because of his session with Inoichi after being picked up from meeting his teacher. Flashback begins. When Inoichi entered Sasuke's mind, it was like a massive hallway filled with doors that had blue bars on most of them. Above are kanji for each year of Sasuke's life, which meant the bars are the memories of those years, maybe for each month, as each door had 12 bar slots that can be filled with memories. Inoichi was showing himself around until he came across 4 doors that have the kanji for 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th. Each of the doors had no glowing bars. But Inoichi had to see what it meant for himself. All he ever found with the doors was nothing. Just darkness with nothing in it. Not even voices were to be heard. And yet what Inoichi instead was around the doors, there was glowing blue dust around the hinges and doorway. To a shinobi like Inoichi, it was proof that there was jutsu used, but it was impossible to be sure who did it as every chakra signature is pretty much the same to the untrained eye. The last memory before all this nothingness was of Sasuke walking around late at night until he came across the advisors and Danzo. Inoichi recognized perfectly, they were telling Sasuke that his brother had killed his family, but before they could let him go the memory ended. After that, Inoichi had found that the first memory after the gap of nothingness was waking up to his daughter looking down on him. So the verdict was clear. All of the memories remaining are natural, on Sasuke's own will. The gap was when Sasuke was being manipulated and for 4 years had false memories in the young Uchiha that had disappeared when he was released from his hold. Despite being the topmost expert on mind-walking jutsu, this still crept Inoichi out. To do this for 4 years completely took a lot of power and a very powerful mind-controlling jutsu. Even for a jutsu that can stay up powered by the target's chakra still was tough and complicated in order to prepare. Flashback ends. And based on Inoichi's word, I have to demand that you will explain this to both me and Sasuke's new friends, as they already provided a better future for us. One that you threatened to send us into ruin. What do you have to say for yourself? They didn't say a word, just fumed that their plans were foiled by the one they hated the most. In their feeble and frail minds, it was all Naruto's fault and none of theirs, despite the fact that they were the ones who gave Naruto enough reasons to do this to them. You were too soft to be Hokage. You didn't have the power to see the destruction of the village at the hands of the demon brat like we can. We should have been Hokage, we should have the rulers of this village. To keep at the top of the others with the most powerful demon under our thumbs. Kaharu went into a frenzy while Hamura was trying to stop her from revealing too much. You all have dragged our teacher's beliefs in the mud with your old age and lie to the new generations as the genuine article. You are nothing but lying old bags and now you will face your end. Anbu kill them. Hiruzen shouted, and the elite shinobi had slayed the advisors as well, spilling more blood on the walls like what they have doing all their lives with innocent people, just to gain what they always wanted that can never happen if they just tell the truth. Meanwhile, Danzo was furious that everything was crumbling all around him. Root. Another legion of shinobi that had headbands with the name Na for their own elite shinobi. The Hokage had gone mad and it is time to replace him. Kill him. But the root shinobi never moved from their spot. I said kill him. Sorry Danzo. You were too late. Naruto finally spoke after sending Sasuke away after seeing too much blood for one day. You were too slow and too careless, we managed to see that there was more shinobi in the records than what others have told us. We had to do some underground investigations and you will know what we had found. Danzo was now as pale as a ghost can ever be and Hiruzen smirked in a taunting manner as well as Naruto. That is why I will not shed tears for you, my fallen old friend. Hiruzen said and Danzo knew that he was doomed, so he went mad too. He shed of his binding that covered a seemingly injured arm to reveal that it was artificially made and laced with eyeballs that were all red with stranger eyes. It is all your fault demon brat and I will see that you will die if it meant everything will be destroyed. ARRGH. Danzo thought that his experience will aid him as well as his arrogant nature, but he was wrong. Naruto proved to be younger and swifter to snatch all those eyes from the arm and from under an eye patch. I am not a grave robber like you Danzo teamer lean on power that I had to steal in order to get it. You are a real fiend and you will not have any more mercy for all the people you have forced to suffer from your paranoia and greed. Naruto retorted as he gently sealed away the eyeballs into a storage scroll while the Anbu held the old man down. Naruto then left the room while the adults do their own stuff that the blonde preferred not to witness because it was almost lunch. He found Sasuke where he left him, sitting behind the door scared from hearing all those screams from inside. Is it over Naruto? The blonde relaxed his eyebrows as he faced the poor Uchiha. Yes it is. The bad man who caused this whole mess is gone. Sasuke then looked up like a kid who was to know what his next toy will be. Is my brother going to come back? Naruto signed in a way that wasn't good for Sasuke. Their brother had to suffer a lot because of the village and it will be harder to forgive them since he was degreed as a traitor and ran out. Even if you explained everything to Itachi, it won't change his mind. Naruto explained. Well can't Ino-chan help him with that? Sasuke adored Ino for everything and even managed to become her boyfriend. Now he believes that she can help anyone, cute when a child says that, but not as a mature adult. No, I am afraid. The damage is too much for Itachi. He is doomed. All he wants is for everyone to forget about him, to at least die peacefully without leaving everyone tainting his grave. Naruto said while hugging Sasuke, who was disappointed and sad that his own brother can never be with him again. Hopefully he will take in the real truth when he learns it and understand why his memory was erased for all this to happen. A few months later, please can we get a better mission teammate came in after finally capturing the runaway cat named Tora and returning her to Lady Shijimi. Naruto, of course, managed to spare anyone else of the agonies by convincing the fire daimyo's wife of better ways to treat their pet cat. Tora then jumped onto Naruto's shoulder and licked at his cheek before cuddling in her owner's hands. Yeah, we have been doing over 200 of these chores. You said that we can get a C rank after that. Hinata said in Naruto's defense despite he was the one complaining. Hiruzen was about to answer when Team 7 entered with the same thing on mind. During the 4 months of D-rank missions, Kiba actually not tolerated the new Sasuke who had been dating Ino the whole time, the same as with Naruto and Hinata. But they were hoping to get something more exciting than painting fences and weeding fields. Fine. The Hokage ignored Iruka trying to make them change their minds and instead called in the next client who paid for a C-rank escort mission. When he arrived, the client wasn't anything impressive. He was like a grandpa with heavy clothes and stank of alcohol. I paid for ninjas. Not kids. They are way too young for being ninjas. He spoke in an insulting gruff tone with breath that was filled with the scent of drank alcohol, proving that he is a heavy drinker for sure. And you are too old to be a bridge builder. Not with all those tools and blueprints are too much for your senile and frail mind. Normally Naruto was be hushed up for being so rude, but like they say, one rough turn deserves another. The client then retorted in a contradictory way. Age never matters. Yes, it doesn't. Naruto smiled and the client moaned in frustration and didn't say another word. So where should we escort you to, Grandpa? My home in Wave Country. It is on the border between this country and Water Country. And my name is Tazuna. With that in mind, both teams went to their homes in order to prepare for any bandits that can target them on the way for kicks. After leaving, there was a slight obstacle on the way. There were missing nin or rogue ninjas that have fled their villages to live as vigilances with a price on their heads. In this case, there were two and tried to disguise themselves as puddles on the ground. Yet that didn't work since it hadn't rained long enough for an actual puddle to remain on the ground without vaporizing and that there wasn't any water nearby. When the group had fully passed it, the two missing nin in question had emerged from their hiding places to attack Kakashi and Kurenai in order to cut down the threat levels. They just underestimated the genin's strength and they were turned in with teamwork. They were then tied to a nearby tree with the jonin that supposedly were killed had appeared, proud that their students had faced off Chunin level shinobi without their help. According to the missing nin, they were sent by a man named Gato, who was one of the wealthiest men in the entire elemental nations. It turned out that this mission was actually A rank with all the dangers, but Tazuna couldn't afford that high-level mission. It took Naruto and Hinata in order to convince the others in order to keep doing the mission because they rather die true to their word than flee after breaking their word. After a silent boat ride to the other side of a large lake, there was the sound of whirling air faintly from behind. But that wasn't enough to fool Naruto, who had revealed one of his swords from a spare storage scroll in a flash and actually deflected the source of the sound. A large knife that was like an oversized butcher's knife that had an extend handle with a perfect circle hole near the end, as well as a half-circle gap more near the handle to the side. Impressive kinjutsu for such a greenhorn brat like you. That voice torn through even the dense fog. It was like something out of a horror film when the audience finally sees the main villain, the serial killer or the evil mastermind behind the madness. And it came from the sword that Naruto just barely deflected. He was a tall man, barely standing a few centimeters over Kakashi and Kurenai. He wore clothes not to be found in the Konoha village, stating that he was not from there at any time. It was composed of ninja boots, ankle and forearm socks, long pants and a short shirt, a thick white scarf that had covered the entire mouth area of the head, and a headband that had the symbol of a rainstorm. Be careful, Sachi-kun. I have seen that headband symbol before as well as those clothes. He is a fierce swordsman from our neighbor Water Country, from the Kurigakura Hidden Mist village. Don't be reckless or you could be killed. They are at least high jonin in their prime. Naruto nodded to his mother's words and wordless got his teammates and fellow genin into a tight-knit group, so there was no way to kill them all without alerting of his position. The jonin though so too, except that Kakashi had recognized that image and from the sword used. Zabuza Mamachi, demon of the hidden mist. A rank missing nin. What are you doing on the borders? Kakashi said, and the missing ninja chuckled. Nice to see that I haven't lost my touch yet, but I have been hired. Kakashi Haid, the copy ninja. The old man dies today. Not if we have something to say about. Kakashi said, and with Kurenai backing him up, this should be a fight was a clear winner. But it just wasn't in their favor. Kurenai's genjutsu were just not affecting Zabuza with his demonic eye that took the form of the face belonging to a monster. What is worst is that Zabuza had proved to be a match for Kakashi, but the latter had no place where his power can be turned into an advantage, unlike the former. The next thing anyone knew, both Jonin were trapped in a Suiton, water release, that Zabuza named Surum no Jutsu, water prison technique. A Surum no Jutsu basically traps the target in an orb of heavy water. Once trapped, the target is unable to move or breathe while within it due to the heaviness of the water. Not even Jonin-leveled shinobi can escape. But Naruto couldn't help but notice that even an expert in Suiton like Zabuza couldn't trap them both while using just one arm. He had to use both of them. Then Naruto saw that chakra was radiating off Zabuza's feet, seeping into the very lake water and forming it into clones kind of like his own. Run. You can't possibly beat someone like Zabuza. He already has what he wants. Kakashi managed to shout from within the compressing water of his prison. But someone was smarter than that. Sorry Kakashi-sensei, even if we run, we will still die. This guy's is a good tracker, and his clones could slow us down for the real Zabuza. We are getting you guys out. We are Konoha shinobi. It was Sasuke. He had managed to rally everyone up and they charged against the Mizubunshin, water clone, in order to get to their teachers while they were in their prisons. This was a double-edged sword for Zabuza. He couldn't move his arms away in order to attack the Konoha shinobi. And yet it was not even only a portion of the original's chakra. These clones were enough to handle every single one of the genin who tried to pose a new threat to the missing shinobi's doppelgangers. Naruto muttered as the sight of his friends and fellow shinobi get creamed in their helpless fight against the water clone assassins. Soon the clones had finished of Sasuke and Kiba, as well as Ino and Shikamaru. They soon headed for the blonde and Hinata, but they never reached them and the bridge builder. Let you do what you want. At that mighty roar, chains of shining silver chakra erupted from Naruto's torso and pieced the clones, causing them to disparate into harmless water. Zabuza was shocked. He had only heard of such an ability with chakra that even the third Mizukage, the professor, couldn't do even with their unbelievable control over their chakra reserves. There was only one person that Zabuza knows from hearing about her, Kushina Uzumaki. It was stated that with her mighty chains, she can hold down any wild beast and attack many enemies. Just who is this brat? Naruto-kun, Hinata said while under the protection of her boyfriend's power. That's amazing, Naruto just chuckled, like he thinks this is a joke. Hina-chan, Naruto started and his girlfriend blushed like she still do when he called her by that nickname. I have read all about my mama, this is nothing to her. That was a lie because there was nothing in the books that can be found in the Konoha village that talked about the ability to mold chakra into sturdy and sharp chains. He just said that to stop any questions and give respect to his mother from within his mindscape. Oh. That is my sweet little Naruto-kun. Always knows best because of a certain someone teaching him for once. Naruto was glad that he was the only one who can hear his mother rant about anything for some reason or two. Naruto couldn't be to imagine the embarrassment if someone was to hear all this. Naruto just used his chains to wedge out of the ground and bring in the fallen genin to their side. Time to counter-strike. Naruto charged with one chain left behind while the others had been summoned back into his chakra reserves, rather slow. That is good, brat. Zabuza hollered with laughter. I haven't laughed so hard when a brat like you came to ask to be a swordsman. I think his name was Zabuza finally let his guard down and that was the right chance and the timing couldn't be better because Naruto had fooled everyone with his actions. He wasn't slow because he was tired or anything, he was storing up momentum for this attack. Nine Kenbu. Venus, chain ploys. Venus. It was like someone had coiled the very water itself once Naruto had swiped his remaining chakra chain so fast that it disappeared in a blur, but not leaving something in its backtrack. The lake was split into two with the water acting as if a vertical whirlpool which can also describe what was going on above. Zabuza's entire body was cut in a spiraling and unseen attack which drew blood from the front and behind at the same time. The water prisons themselves had burst open, leaving the Jonin inside unharmed. Damn it. You will fucking pay for this crap, you shitholes. Zabuza cursed, killing the poor children's ears. He then disappeared, leaving some of the lake water to fill in his place that was taking up that much space. He also left the Jonin to be soaked in the water as the result of impact from that chain attack. I guess that was one day for the record books of the craziest days in shinobi history. Kakashi muttered. He had to make himself look like a fool in front of his students, and the worst part was that he tried to tell his kids to run, even though he knew that they will die whatever they state or not. Let's get out of here before anything else happens. For once, Kurenai agreed with the perverted Cyclops that she can barely stand, not with the porn reading in public. She always told him that was only going to make a bad impression on himself and on the children who ask what is written on those pages. Later, Tazuna had led the shinobi he hired to his house. There, they were all greeted by Tsunami. She was the beautiful daughter of Tazuna which baffled the shinobi a bit. How did a drunk like Tazuna bag a wife in order to give birth to a lovely daughter? She did look like she was old enough to be a housewife. And that is exactly what she is, or was. They all learned about that when the grandson of the family, a boy of a brat named Inari, had confronted the shinobi with his tough guy act. He thought that will show the shinobi who is really important and that they don't know about pain. He was silenced however, when Naruto directed all the kai of everyone disagreed with that boy into Inari's direction, knocking the arrogant kid out like a light. Before Naruto was going to run off to better burn off the negative energy, Hinata got bold enough to kiss her boyfriend while the others were watching. Hiba was lamenting on how he wasn't that lucky when it came to finding a girlfriend for himself, while Shikamaru was just fine with his relaxing life without problems that dating and marriage can bring. Sasuke was a little nervous about shifting his hand to hold Ino's until the latter closed the gap and held Sasuke's hand. They then looked at each other in the eye with loving and thought about all the times they can possibly be together. Kurenai had always dreamt of falling in love, but otherwise led a team of women to show the world that while kunoichi are allowed, they are still not treated as equal as male shinobi. Kakashi never said a word, but in his mind, he could have cared less about all this and just spend the rest of his days with his porn books. After all that, they were then moved into the backyard of the cottage that Tazuna and his family owns and lives in. Kakashi had been in stilts since he spent most of his chakra reserves trying to gain an edge over Zabuza. Right now we are going to get training seriously in order to be prepared for the return of Zabuza. It was just fine until Naruto and Hinata noticed that Team 7 was shocked at their teacher walking on the side of the tree bark. Have you even taught Team 7 all the basics yet? They should not be so shocked or confused if you were any better teacher. Kurenai beat her students to voicing their disapproval about how far behind this team is turning out to be. Kakashi tried to say that he needed to make sure the teamwork of his genin was actually ready for real training. Instead of taking it like an answer, Team 8 all contributed to hitting Kakashi on the head and knocking him out like a light. And so, for the rest of the week, the time it will take for Zabuza to recover since he only fled in order to be healed, Kurenai had cramped the 3 months of training into Team 7, who learned a lot, and it is all no thanks to Kakashi, who now tried to get back to healing, rather than getting injured all over again. It didn't help that his own team turned against him for neglecting their training due to his laziness and tardiness, but when the week ended, it was time to face Zabuza again, and Naruto mysteriously decided to stay behind by sleeping in. They arrived at the bridge by the time that the last bridge builder helper to Tazuna had finally quit under the pressure. And waiting for them is also Zabuza, but he had someone by his side in combat. The boy wearing a full body clothing and a face mask had faced off against the genin. Meanwhile, back at the cottage, Naruto was actually hiding out in the house while keeping an eye on the client's family. And just like Naruto's fears, there were Mercuries kidnapping the family. They muttered that their boss was going to pay them big by using Tsunami and Inari as leverage over Tazuna. Naruto sprang into action and the next thing the civilians knew, Naruto had slain them all in a near instant. Inari apologized to Naruto for his behavior, but Naruto just patted him on the head, saying that heroes forgive as easy as they forget, and Inari yelling at the blonde was something to forget. Tsunami was just glad that her son is okay and asked of Naruto to protect her father at the bridge. Naruto then nodded and left the house and holding down the fort to them, but when he got to the unfinished bridge, he was in for a nasty surprise. Sasuke Uchiha, formerly the neighborhood emo and current Jiraiya of Konoha, was on his last legs. He and the other genin tried to face off this accomplice of Zabuza's, but it was futile. This masked boy was like high Chunin as Zabuza was high Jonin level in terms of chakra reserves and skills with it. This guy used ice that was sturdy enough to withstand even Sasuke's newly stronger Genkakik no Jutsu, great fireball technique. What is worst, Sasuke didn't have anything left to do against this foe who had left everyone else of his team and teammate lying on the ground unharmed but out of action. Sasuke still feels something stirring inside of his mind. It is just that no matter how many times he tries to make this out, Sasuke had no idea what is. Is this the best that the hope of the Uchiha clan? I admit that you have finally got the appearance right, but you need to pick someone else to be your bride. All these girls are dead weight and worthless as much as they were ugly. That accomplice said while surrounding Sasuke with mirrors filled with his reflections that started to laugh. As they laughed at Sasuke, rage emerged from within. Shut up, Sasuke muttered, but it didn't stop the masked man from continuing to laugh at his failures, so he tried louder and louder. Shut up. Sasuke let a fierce roar that had set off a burst of chakra that was enough to shake the mirrors, but couldn't break them. I won't lose to someone like you. I hate you. One might think that Sasuke is berserk, but instead Sasuke was well in command of his actions. It is just that he somehow was able to see just which mirror had the real masked boy or where the needles that this boy loves as a weapon is going to land next. Then the mirrors started to crack like they were under great pressure and after only a few seconds, they shattered. Sasuke was in shock, he sure couldn't do that and if he did, then who? Good job Sasuke. I have already brought the orders to safety. They will be fine. Sasuke to see Naruto on the bridge with rage that he was struggling to maintain clearly written all over his face. Now protect them while I clean up this mess. Now. Naruto yelled with no space for any argument or back-talking. Sasuke hurried to his feet and raced to where his fellow genin in order to stay out of Naruto's way. But before Sasuke could even get a meter away and before Naruto could say a word to this masked boy, an arrow had rocketed through the air and pierced the boy in the chest, killing him within seconds. Sasuke was initially in shock to see blood for the first time, even the one of the enemy, but he was able to get out of his stupor and hurried to his comrades for real this time. Meanwhile, Naruto was seeing everything and like at the cottage, his fears were becoming reality. Gato, the tyrant that was drying wave dry of their money and freedom, had plans to finish of Tazuna and Zabuza to cover his dirty tracks of hiring a missing nin. All this was not happening until the real kicker came when Gato had to point out the Kunoichi on the bridge and asked of his army of Mercuries to bring them to him. He was going to rape Kurenai, Ino and Hinata for his own amusement. Naruto could no longer ignore Gato or any of his laughing hired hands any longer, and neither did the voices in his head. Kill them, Naruto-kun. There is no trace of humility left in them. There can't be called humans anymore. Karen was the first to yell in Naruto's mind that was leaking with killer intent by the very second. They have done the unforgivable, Naruto-kun. Slay them and rid the world of their scum. Mito was the second, seeing clearly as Karen that their souls were completely tainted. It was like looking at the smelliest and ugliest trash dump site and not be able to look away. This is what I have to experience, and they had the nerve to take advantage of my friends. See to it that it doesn't happen this time, Naruto-kun. Nagato was slowing losing his own temper as he went through memories of him and Konan forced to watch their friend die in exchange for her life, but instead they were to be killed by all of the witnesses. Don't you dare hold back this time, Sachi. I will never let you sleep at night if you do. Release it and send the judgment on those who threatened your friends and comrades. Kushina was the last, and she had finally set the boiler onto its highest setting, causing the kettle to blow like so. Damn you, Gato. Naruto roared in a demonic voice that flooded the very air with a presence that was weighting down the enemies and lifting the atmosphere for his allies. I will crush you. Naruto shouted, and with the palm of his hand pointed at the tyrant's head, the blonde clenched it, causing Gato's head to explode. Initially, the Mercuries were scared of Naruto because of what happened to their boss, who laughed at the scary blonde. But at that moment, the hired hands realized something that quelled their fear and instead filled them to the brim with anger. Hey, that kid killed our meal ticket. Who is going to give us our paycheck? Let's kill him instead. Cheers of the agreeing Mercuries were heard, and they charged at the small group of shinobi who initially braced for battle, but then Hinata was pushed back into Kurenai gently by some unseen force that resembled the same one from before. Keep them safe, okay, Kurenai-sensei, Kakashi-san. I will take care of them. Naruto said in a stern tone that left no room for argument. No one was able to when the blonde clapped his hands and summoned a pair of swords. Let's play her off, shall we? Naruto muttered before he took off at speeds that sent the remaining genin off their feet and land on their teachers, while the bridge builder was flying off the ground and a ways behind the shinobi. What happened next was something no different than a bloodbath. Every single one of the Mercuries were either slashed, hacked, sliced or diced. The worst part for them is that when one of them got a lucky shot at Naruto, their attacks were repelled from something that protected Naruto, even from the blood out of their bodies that went like chicken cubes. After nearly a half hour, all of the Mercuries who tried to kill the shinobi from Konoha were in a body pile, with Naruto standing on the top. Only his swords had blood on them while his body or clothes were completely clean. Naruto then started back and saw that his witnesses were for a loss of words, so he descended down the pile of dead bodies, using any head sticking out as a footstool. That is the full extent of my power, Kurenai-sensei, Kakashi-san. And I will never live to use this to become the village's weapon in a war. I will just protect my friends from those who want to do harm. And I will know who will and who won't. Don't dare question my drive from here and now on. With all that said, Naruto took out a he ripped from one of the victims of his swords in order to wipe the blood off of them. From that moment and forever, the two Jonin had found themselves to fear Naruto. He had taken out an entire army with only a little short of breath. Even cage-level shinobi find it hard to use their powers to take out even a large squadron without running out on empty. The only ones that didn't feel afraid or intimidated was Hinata, Sasuke and surprising Ino. Maybe it was the latter too because they own Naruto too much to be afraid of him. Anyway, altogether, the world will be whether ready and waiting or not be ready. After the incident on the Wave Bridge, the entire population of Wave came in order to finally stand up to the tyrant for all those years of fear and submission. After hearing that Gato is dead either way, they cheered for their new hero who had, in one single week, did what they were afraid to do in years. There was even rumors through the village for the next week as the workers who fled apologized for their cowardly behavior and wanted to work under Tazuna, who never backed down no matter the odds. For someone of his old age, it was admirable and nothing to sneeze at. The bridge builder then cried to hear that it took a blonde brat with fox whisker marks to pull all of this off. So it took that long to get the supplies and finally complete the bridge that will connect Wave Country to the rest of the mainland. With it, the economy will recover quickly and they will thrive again. It was a pity that Naruto or any of the Konoha shinobi can stay longer. They are still needed at the village. But will you come back to visit us? Inari was the one who tried to fix up his mistake by treating Naruto like an arrogant man who only wanted their money instead of granting them their freedom. He was wrong on every account and was even given some more confidence to flush out the tough guy attitude that was not helping as much as Inari had hoped it would. Sure Inari, and I will love to hear back on how much you have learned from your old man. You have your family's blood in your veins, so make them proud and be someone bigger than any carpenter that ever lived in your family. Inari. Naruto surprised everyone and especially the woman with his hidden talent for always knowing what to say to children, no sarcasm there. Okay big brother. I will. Naruto laughed that somehow made Inari laugh along too. It was so sweet to see two brothers interact like this. It made Tazuna and Tsunami cry to see their son finally laugh about anything since his father died and Gato took over Wave Country. This boy is a good scent for sure. Goodbye big brothers, big sisters. I hope to see you all again. Inari gave his farewell along with the rest of the villagers that he managed to rile up a week ago. He just never saw that only a select few of them were actually happy. The others were just thinking about fleeing all this and going back to where they will rather be than with a village who won't leave them alone for the entire 2 weeks they spent in Wave Country. I am sure that we will and we owe you a favor that I am sure that will come in handy in the future. Still tomorrow is like fate, fickle and unpredictable. Even more than I can ever be so I am hoping that I will actually see your faces again. Naruto said in his head while being disconnected from his mindscape for the whole time. He didn't want any feedback to his muttering. I wonder what sensei would want to tell all of us, enough to cancel our training for today. Naruto said while he was sitting on the side of the bridge along with Hinata relaxing in his arms. Meanwhile, the rest of their team and the entire Team 7 were also there trying to wait for their teachers to arrive. I mean we did get busy with yet another 200 D ranks and a couple more C rank missions. Everyone could just nod. It was true though, after finally getting a C rank, both teams were told that if they want another then they needed to fill the requirements for C ranks all over again. It helped that since they were two teams that worked together on the same mission every time, Naruto's Kage Bunshin, Shadow Clone, were like a real godsend to all this torturous boredom that they dared called missions. Thankfully, they didn't need to wait any longer when they heard 2 poofs of smoke nearby. And when the plumes cleared, there were the 2 Jonin to behold. Hello children. Hello class. Kakashi tried to get the same welcome as Kurenai, but instead had to dodge a storm of kunai. What was that for? Figured that you deserve at least 100 more to make up for your tardiness and besides, we need to stay sharp, SOMEHOW. Naruto answered with a sadist grin that the rest of the genin matched and it crept Kakashi out. Kurenai just giggled. Okay enough of that children she said and when Kakashi sighed in relief, for the moment. Kakashi was just about to faint seeing that not only the grins turned into face-peeling smirks, but Kurenai was smirking along too. We are here to tell you that in a couple more weeks, it will be time for the annual Chunin exams. And this year, it's Konoha's turn to host them. Chunin exams? They didn't say anything about that in the academy. Naruto said to make sure Sasuke doesn't panic about yet another thing he could remember. But then again it is hard to forget what you never knew. Of course not since they are very dangerous. People died during the Chunin exams. Kurenai said with a foreboding tone. So we are going to train you extra hard because once you have made it past the first 2 parts, then you will get to where you can earn your promotion to Chunin. I guess you are going to tell us anything more about the exams, eh? Naruto said, for the sake of the teams like usual. Although this was to be expected, both genin teams were hoping for the opposite. Nope. And exactly 2 weeks later, both Team 7 and 8 were trained to the ground. Were forced to increase their physical training tenfold until they broke their bones, only to have them painfully healed and broken again. Their non-physical training was no different, expected to read thick books in the morning, only to have a quiz on every single one of them the very evening. Now all that is torture that is also called training. But it was worth it since every single one of the 6 said genin had really showed some results. The boys were more filled out and yet more nimble and swift, while the girls were the same but more nimble and swift to physical strength. Their outfits also evolved into more professional as well as badass clothes. But for the sake of their teachers nagging, all that were under some black cloaks that covered their bodies entirely. But despite all that, the genin arrived where they were asked to wait for the exams to start, with slips proving that their teachers have admitted them in as competitors. Still, they had one surprise to start that day off when they arrived after several steps of stairs. Please, we need to get in so we can take the first part of the Chunin exams. We need to get in there. Team 7 and 8 turned to see another team from the looks of it, yelling at a couple of guards that were preventing them from entering the door behind them. We keep telling you kiddies, these exams are dangerous. We are doing you a favor by preventing you from just throwing your lives away. One of them retorted while his partner nodded at every word. It is useless to try and use words. We need to get by force. Another one of them said, and the remaining member of that team said this is in a voice that nearly beat Sakura's own from the academy. Yeah. Words are nothing to the might of our flames of youth Tenten. That, the one begging for entrance seemed to be the sole female of the team, a lot like most genin teams seen so far in the exams, and her teammate gave her name away to be Tenten. Tenten has black hair and steel gray eyes. She wears her hair in Chinese-style buns on either side of her head with short fringe bangs falling over her forehead protector which she wears in the traditional manner. Tenten wears a pink sleeveless kipao-style blouse with red sleeve trimmings and yellow fastening buttons, as well as dark green pants, a pouch adjusted to her thigh, and standard blue ninja sandals. Her appearance is a reference to the Chinese culture. Niji, Lee, you boys are all the same. Tenten addressed her two teammates. Niji had fair skin and long black hair. Niji is wearing a khaki shirt, a dull blue shirt beneath that, and mesh armor beneath that. He is also wearing dark brown shorts, blue shinobi sandals, and wrapped bandages around his right arm, chest, and right leg. He has his hair tied back in a loose ponytail tied a few inches above the end. He wore a black forehead protector, under which a smaller headband with two straps was that framed the sides of his face. Lee possesses very thick eyebrows and large rounded black eyes with prominent lower eyelashes. During his academy days, Lee's hair was much longer and fastened in a braid that, along with his style of dress, gave him a more traditional Chinese appearance. His hair is now cut and styled into a bowl cut style, and he also began wearing the same attire, consisting of a green jumpsuit, orange leg warmers, and a red forehead protector worn as a belt. She is right, of course. They all heard a voice from behind them, but before they could turn to see who was there, all three genin were dragged off like they were heavy sacks to carry. You can't be good genin if you overlook the slightest of things. Even those can kill you. Okay, now stop it. Tenten shouted when she and her team finally got disconnected from whoever were dragging them along. It was Team 7 along with Team 8. Hey, you are part of the teams that graduated a year after us. Then they are doomed to fail this exams because they were not worthy of shinobi teachings. Niji went on in his arrogant ways that he was the only one that was in favor of any god of fate or something which he uses every time he looks down on others. Then you all took these exams before? Naruto asked and smirked to see Team 9 suddenly hesitated in a slight awkward silence. If you don't, then you have no way of knowing who is going to fail, and thus you have no right to insult us hard workers who went to ground for this very day. We had 100 more questions for you, because you three are our seniors, but now Naruto left that last sentence hanging, as he and his friend started to give them the cold shoulder. Hey. Tenten glared at her teammates for giving them bad first impression and tried to call out for Team 8 and 7, but they just won't stop. We're sorry, okay, that didn't even make them slow down. We're sorry. Truly. Tenten started to get a little desperate, and when she realized that her efforts to make up for her teammates' rudeness had made her team look even worse. Do what you want if it will make you shut up. We are trying to get to the room we are supposed to be for the exams to start. Naruto said and his team nodded in agreement. Tenten just sighed from her spot and after a short while, started to walk in the same direction while her teammates call out for her to stop, but this time, it was Tenten giving the cold shoulder. When they got to the supposed room, they found that they were among the first to arrive. And those teams had uniforms that are nothing to be found in Konoha, and even their headbands had different symbols of a mist, a rock, a sand dune and a cloud to name a few. Of course, there were no hellos or good days in the room, since these exams are not about making new friends, but to last until the promotion to Chunin is as good as theirs. Hey. Teams 8 and 7 sighed once again to hear a familiar voice that they adjusted to just moments earlier that day. I am sorry for my team. They all think that a year of training in advance will secure their promotion. Our teacher has been trying to prove them wrong. What your team does is none of our business, Tenten-san. Naruto cut her off with a glare. All you need to worry is what we are doing right now, trying not to get off the wrong side of anyone here. They can pretty much kill us when the time comes and when they personally have a good enough reason to waste their time on our necks. Naruto then turned to all the stares and glances towards the two teams and Sol Kunoichi. Is that right, everyone? Are we so pathetic that it is a waste of time to even look at us? Tenten was surprised to see that every other genin looked at each other and then nodded and voiced all sorts of agreements. Such as that's right, they really are a waste of time and we were just thinking that. Then all of them started to ignore teams 8 and 7 as well as Tenten. Before she could respond to this, Naruto cut her off again. Be sure to thank us because we had given you all the safety this exams can actually provide. Now no one will ever try to go after you without a good reason. If they do otherwise, feel free to kill them if you can. Naruto then left this standing and Tenten fuming but had no words to retort with. He's right. Now I am as about safe in this exams as possible, and I will show him that I am not as pathetic as everyone thinks I am. I will show them all. Tenten's little moment was about to be ruined when her teammates had finally caught up. Give those back. They're mine. Team 9 turned to see Naruto with another genin it looks like. What stood out the most about this genin is a pair of black-rimmed circular glasses, a classic for nerds, and yet scheming masterminds in the works too. Other than that, he has onyx eyes and ash gray hair, which is normally kept in a ponytail that extends to his upper back, with his bangs framing either side of his forehead. He wore a dark purple shirt with a high collar, a wide undershirt, and dark purple fingerless gloves with armored plates on the back of the hand. He also wore a white cloth waistband worn at an angle, dark purple pants, blue sandals, and a shuriken holster on his right leg. He is also wearing a blue Konohagakure forehead protector, which said who he was competing for in this exams. What is the big deal? I happen to like playing with cards, and I wanted to see them up close. Naruto said defiantly, trying to read the cards while keeping this genin from snatching them back. After an amusing show, Naruto got a little frustrated. Hinata-chan. He said, and the curious genin fell to the floor with a limp. Now he looked no different than a discarded puppet. Now then, Naruto said, flipping the cards one by one until he stacked them neatly before each one soared out of Naruto's palm. Every single one of these cards suddenly found themselves in the hands of every single genin in the room, including the ones outside. Even the team that just came in got a card into their hand. What is this and why is my face on it? Meanwhile, Naruto had one card left in the palm of his hand, but also had another between the pointer and middle finger. If you think that selling us out for money is going to get your promotion, then you shouldn't have set shop with me in town. What are you talking about? I said those were mine. The genin shouted until he paled when Naruto read the card that he had between his fingers. So you are Kabuto Yakushi. Oh, a rich history for sure and very interesting, would you agree? Naruto said, facing seemingly no one in particular until a poof of smoke appeared on the spot, more violently than the ones that Kakashi or Kurenai ever made. Very good instincts, kid. But let's see how far you can get with those gut feelings, maggot. Said a large, imposing figure with a rugged head and face covered with old wounds and scars. His head was covered for some reason, since some of the scars were hidden under his cap. Ibiki Marino, the mind sadist of Konoha and the head of the Konoha torture and interrogation force. So you were going to start the exams? Naruto said, and with smirk to see a curious look on Ibiki's face. Well, Kabuto's got one that was paler than chalk. Hinata was just holding on to Naruto since all this is a little overwhelming. Where did you get all that? I didn't think you will be reading my profiler, Ibiki said in a smooth tone until he had a card shoved into his face. Reading it, Ibiki's expression turned dark. Never mind, kid, someone is going to get it big and get it really nasty for putting all my personal info on some stupid trading card. Don't forget the other cards, tell him everyone. Are those cards lying about you or what? Naruto asked the crowd, and like the Arjik before, they all said the same thing, that the cards which soared into their hands had every piece of info correct about them. Ibiki just sighed. Fine brat, fine. I will see to this after the first part, and if I don't get all the cards from every single one of your maggots, then you automatically fail the entire exams. You will also automatically fail the entire exams if you are not in the room within a minute. Ibiki said before he shouted to all the genin who hurried into the twin doors they were standing in front of. Naruto then gave his card to start things off while Hinata, Shino, Sasuke, Ino, and Choji did the same to follow Naruto's example. Thanks a lot, Brad, and now I have something to remind me of the extra work you gave me. Now move it. Both teams hurried inside as well, while Ibiki followed behind to make sure no one will make a run for it. Inside was a room a lot like the academy classrooms in the academy, but had only chairs and desks, along with more adults that had the Konoha-style uniform and vest on, facing away from all the windows. Meanwhile, Ibiki took spot in front of it all, like an academy teacher. Much better, and now I have just one thing to say to you all maggots. Everyone tensed, which only satisfied Ibiki even more. Welcome to the Chunin exams, where if you fail, and you will die. Now that every single one of you maggots have found a seat, Ibiki started while surveilling the room. We will get started on the first part of the exam, the written exam. What do we do? One unlucky and foolish genin said. Did I give you permission to speak? Ibiki yelled, and that same genin shook his head negatively. Thought so. If you are that impatient, then you should leave, but if you do, then the rest of your team has to go too. That is one of the rules to this written exam. No one said another word, so Ibiki continued. Good. Ibiki nodded his head to one of the Chunin in the squad that accompanied him into the room. He then revealed a stack of papers and handed out one by one to each of the genin. On each of these papers are 9 questions, and you need to answer them correctly, which will give you 3 points. If your entire team gets them all, then you can try the final question for 1 more point to pass. But if you are caught cheating, then you will lose points. If you get caught 5 times, then you and your team, regardless of how they perform, will be disqualified from the exams, forever. Ibiki paused to dare anyone to protest, and the genin instead cringed under the stare. You have an hour to do so. Begin. And they hurried to use their pencils to write down the answers the best they can. And so 1 hour later, okay, pencils down. Ibiki said, which had taken everyone by surprise. It is time for the final question. If you get it wrong then you will be disqualified from taking the exams ever again. But if you succeed then you pass. But you also have the option of not taking the 10th question, avoid failure and success, but still you will be prohibited from taking the exams ever again. What is it going to be? Soon, the pressure throughout the room was so thick that someone could have sworn to be as visible as toxic gas. There were plenty of genin that were covered in sweat, while some quickly left to escape the heavy presence, taking their teams with them. Ibiki smirked that he actually got some cowards and quitters out the door. Now he had the remainders left to break, so what is going to be for the rest of you? There is still that chance to avoid failure, and once you do then you will live out a safe life, rather than always be in danger. Ibiki said, but noticed that no one was actually looking at him but Naruto, who seemed to be in deep thought. Are you having a moment in my classroom and with someone that has your fate in my hands like me, maggot? Naruto then looked with an absent-minded looking face. Sorry, did you say something? Ibiki grimaced, and meanwhile, everyone tried to keep in their laughter at how bold Naruto is to say such disrespect to a man like Ibiki. Anyhow, I can guess what are you trying to test us with this sham of an exam, but after the team ruined the surprise, I don't want to sell you so short. All I know is that if I am going to fail, then I will still try for Hokage, even if you really mean by banning me from the exams ever again, Ibiki-san. Everyone were both grinning and staying at the edge of their seats, and that meant only one thing. Ibiki no longer had his hold on them, no, Naruto now controls their fate. They wanted to see what will happen now. Naruto had backtalked Ibiki, but they never counted on this. Alright you maggots, there is no going back now, so you all. Ibiki paused for drama until, pass. That written exam was one for the record books for being the scariest one that had an anticlimactic ending. Who would have thought that the final question was the dare to take it and there was no chance of failing except for leaving. Everyone was still a little pissed that they were lied and cheated out and made like fools. But right now, they were not in a classroom at all. They were outside a metal fence with a large forest on the other side. The fence had a sign that was large as well as said, Training Ground 44. Keep out. Danger. Welcome to the Forest of Death. Where you will be until the second exam ends. The proctor for the second exam is something else that no one was counting on. They only knew her as crazy, shameless and rude, in reverse order. First she drops in when Ibiki was still in charge by arriving early. And she displayed fishnet as the only thing under her coat that showed her figure. And then she had to casually talk about death and in front of children who haven't been brooded yet compared to some. So now, you will enter the woods and make your way to the center where a tower is made. There will be where the third part of the exam will be taking place. Anko then took out a map and showed everyone a picture of a circle that was in a clearing surrounded by trees. And your time limit will be 5 days, and meanwhile, you will need to acquire 2 scrolls. The Chunin assistant came up to reveal a pair of scrolls that had the kanji written on for earth and heaven respectively. If you arrive without a complete set then you can't pass the second exam, so no heading there when the whistle blows, okay. Everyone nodded, and Anko then said that since fatality is much more common during the second exam than the first for any Chunin exams, there are slips to be filled out, so there will be no charges if a genin contestant died in the forest. And some genin will die, that fact is unavoidable. Of course, things were just fine. Teammate had received a copy of the Earth Scroll, and after signing their slips, they spent a good amount of hours in the forest until they managed to scavenge a copy of the Heaven Scroll from the dead bodies of an unfortunate genin team that had all their flesh removed and their headband and clothes ruined, so no one will know who they are or which village they represented. But then Naruto heard the voices in his head that something of great amount of chakra that was too foul to be a normal genin. And now, just who is this person? My Kajime no Jutsu, shadow imitation technique, just backfired on me. Shikamaru replaced his usual calmness and laziness with fear that gave him a sudden boost in energy to show it, his most used jutsu, the one that finished off any troublesome encounter during Shikamaru's entire career as genin. Hinata simply hid behind Naruto, who was frozen stiff. Both of them had seen that this woman had so much chakra that was so vile that it was like they were staring the devil in the face to them. The former two had no idea who they were actually starting at, but Naruto did. Orochimaru, Konoha's greatest traitor after Madara Uchiha. That caused his 2 teammates to also freeze. This man was one of the few remaining shinobi to be a candidate for Hokage, and they are more than a match for 3 genin even together. Orochimaru was a tall man with extremely translucent looking pale skin and straight waist-length black hair, with the front strands falling to his shoulders. He had a long face with pronounced cheekbones, golden eyes with slits in his pupils, purple markings around his eyes and fang-like teeth, a reference to his snake-like nature. He wears plain grey garbs with black pants and a thick purple rope belt tied in a large knot behind his back and blue Tomo-shaped earrings. He is seen wearing a black polo neck under it. He also wore blue sandals. Coo. Orochimaru started to chuckle in a way that sent shivers up teammates' spines. Looks like my reputation perceives even as far as the teams of freshly breeded children. And you all look so tasty. Orochimaru said with his tongue out like a snake usually does to smell the air, which only made him even more terrifying. But why are you here? We are just fresh meat for all the animals here. You won't waste your time and risk your presence for such a stupid reason. Naruto asked while Shikamaru shifted towards the blonde who seemed to be the strongest and bravest of the entire teammate. You are cleverer than my resources informed me of. Orochimaru responded. But you are right, of course, I am after someone else entirely, but it seemed that I ran into you three first. I can't help if the team is slow and that you don't know what the definition of a shinobi is, Orochimaru. Now let us through. Naruto said as bold as ever, but Orochimaru laughed instead. You are really amusing and not everyone amuses me, Naruto-kun. But you will just sell me out and I don't let anyone live to do that. You will do the same, will you? Orochimaru said with his kai up again, but Naruto was not to back down so easily. I will do it better than you are doing now, Orochi team. With your kai, you will just alert your former teacher and the Anbu that you are here if you delay longer. So spare us and save yourself like the coward you are, or you can preserve your pride by killing us all while we run. Naruto dared Orochimaru, probably the most foolhardy thing anyone could possibly do in their finest or in a better word, last hour. But it worked that Orochimaru growled on how he was now in a proverbial corner, lose-lose scenario, no easy way out, and it was all Naruto's fault. After a good minute, Orochimaru roared like an enraged animal. Fine. You have now amused me and annoyed me, but if you try to do this again, then I promise that you will die, either by me or by my many spies. Orochimaru then turned into a clump of mud that settled on the ground just a second before more company came. Aki. What the hell happened? Where is that bastard? It was Anko again and she seemed a little ticked off, unlike the Anbu nearby. We don't know. We never tell our enemies where we are going, specifically, but for someone like Orochi Pedo team to be here is Sasuke. Naruto said it all in one breath, and while Anko was smiling at Naruto's nickname for the man she hated the most, the Anbu gasped in realization. You don't want us to find Hokage Jiji and tell him that Orochimaru was allowed to roam free in the forest of death because you were delittling, right? Naruto got his answer when every single Anbu shinobi vanished with such force that the dirt that was directly under their feet had scattered in a sudden draft. Later, so brat, you actually talked down Orochi team into a proverbial corner and he actually let you live in favor of escaping us. I know the old snake, he doesn't let anyone know that he is here, so he might actually come for your necks later, brats. Anko decided to accompany teammate to make up for yet another lost attempt on her former master's life. What can I say, Anko-san? Even cowards have their own twisted pride. Naruto responded while Hinata and Shikamaru remained as near to him as possible. They were still afraid of Anko for the sadist and creepy display from when she introduced the entire forest to the remaining batch on contenders. You have guts, I may hate my former teacher, but even I know that kids like you are pretty much dead if you face a shinobi like him. He is still as strong as when he was part of a shinobi team that Hokage-sama trained years ago, and all three had become sages during the Second Shinobi War. Anko responded with another warning. Yes, Anko-san. And thanks for walking us to the tower. Can you promise us that Sasuke will be okay? We can't have Orochi Pedo team messing him up when he finally became a real great guy to hand out with. Naruto asked one last thing, and Anko gave her sadist smile before nodding. I will check it out once the final exam starts and you guys are good kids, don't die on me, or I will bring you back so I can kill you myself. Teammate nodded furiously and ran directly into the tower, their destination. Inside was a riddle that went like this. If you lack in earth then run through the fields to seek opportunities, if you lack in heaven, then learn and expand your horizons. If you lack in both then you will never succeed. If you lack in none then you will always find your way in life. Here is in Sarutobi, 3rd Hokage of Konohagakure. After some thinking it over, Shikamaru came up with the answer. Opening the scrolls they acquired in the forest that had heaven and earth written on them respectively, they threw both scrolls to the ground to reveal Kurenai, waiting to congratulate them on winning the second exam. Don't relax yet, Sachi. Naruto heard his mother talking to him once teammate were asked to stay in the rooms found in the tower until the 5 days are up. Orochimaru is still out there. We both can't still feel that foul chakra, Naruto-kun. That was Mito and Karen all at once, and their message was clear enough to make Naruto widen his eyes. He almost yelled this out before containing himself at the last second. You must have Sasuke's signature down. Did something happen to him and his team? Was Orochimaru's signature there just recently? The girls are not certain, Naruto-kun. This time, it was his adoptive uncle Nagato. Orochimaru was definitely near, but Sasuke-kun's signature is still going strong. One last thing to mention is that Orochimaru's signature was about to ambush Sasuke and his team, but had to change direction entirely when a large group of powerful signatures came. A lot like when Orochimaru left you and your team to be spared Naruto-kun. This caused Naruto to let out a breath of relief that he didn't know that he had. Sasuke and his team had be spared of Orochimaru, for now. The blonde will have to wait for Sasuke while on alert from his resident souls, sensing for anything to happen, and the first thing Naruto will do once he ran into Sasuke and his team is to let them know what is going on from his own point of view. One thing is for sure, with Orochimaru around, the Chunin exams will be unpredictable. Sasuke. Ino. Kiba. Naruto shouted as his unsettled nerves finally relaxed to see the Team 7 had made it in one piece, in terms of all three members still alive and kicking. Naruto. The two boys embraced like brothers, which could have been disturbing, but everyone was somehow used to see a boy treat another of the same age like a younger brother, and that was because that same boy's mindset was like so. Something happened in the forest. I heard everything from Anko-san and the Anbu. Orochimaru is after you, Sasuke, and even the tower doesn't feel safe. Naruto said with seriousness that made him forget about the nickname for the snake sage for the time being. But why? He is an outlaw, a traitor, so why would he go after us? Kiba shouted while Ino was no better, hugging her boyfriend who tried to settle her down with an embrace of his own. Orochimaru could care less about the well-being of either of you, but he is after Sasuke's bloodline eyes. With them, he could complete his goal. Anko-san told me everything since she was forced to be burdened with this knowledge. Naruto started. Orochi team wants to learn every single jutsu in the world, but two things are required, an extended lifespan and eyes that can copy the jutsu that normally require a certain bloodline to master and use. That includes Sasuke's Sharingan. Once those last words were said, everyone's glaze was on Sasuke himself. The said boy felt like the world started to glare at him all at once. But before this could break him into pieces, Naruto took him from the unwanted attention along with Ino, who never let go of her boyfriend. Once they all reached to a vacant room big enough for two, Naruto took the couple to one of the beds. There is still one entire day left until the second exam ends. In the meantime, stay here. I will help make sure that Orochi team doesn't try to get again before the day ends. The couple nodded, and when Naruto closed the only entrance to the room, seals were placed all over. There, these seals can only be deactivated by my DNA. But Orochi team can still try to break them, can he? Naruto said internally this time, to speak with the souls of his relatives that dwell within his mindscape. Considering the crude materials we need to use, we will have to pray and wish they hold. This is not like the seals I can make easy and strong with all the paper in Konoha to use. Mito answered with uneasiness. In the meantime, go and find Anko-san. We have been studying the foul chakra emitting from her shoulder. We may have come up with a seal that can at least destroy that piece of Orochimaru's soul in the marking. Kushina brought up, and all four of the Uzumakis felt a sudden surge of anger within the mindscape. That is why Anko hates the Pito team, because not only did he abandon her to a life of hell like mine, but branded her with a piece of his twisted and ugly soul. Naruto displayed not only anger, but newly found hate in his thoughts. Please calm down, Ani-chan. We will help Anko-san, please don't feel angry. Naruto just couldn't deny this voice of his big sister, who was also like a baby sister. They both have this cute and caring voice that can lift anyone's mood. Sorry Karen-ni-san. So what do I have to do? Naruto finally settled his anger and hate and listened to his relatives carefully. Then Naruto left to find Anko, which didn't take long to find the older woman eating dango in an isolated spot in the tower. It also didn't long for her to notice that she had company. Hey brat, not that it is nice to see you, but how did you find me? Not even Hokage-sama can do that when I want to eat dango in private. Anko shouted like always until she noticed that she was both on the ground and her shirt being stripped off of her. What the hell are you doing? Normally, Anko doesn't mind being treated like this, but there was a reason for her protesting like this. Her shirt was the only part of her outfit that hid her greatest shame and curse, the curse mark of heaven that her former traitorous teacher left her once he fled Konoha. Relax Anko-san, I know all about this, and I am going to see if I can cleanse it of Orochi team's soul that still dwells in this mark. What? Anko obviously didn't know about that, and her hate for Orochimaru doubled on that very spot. That jerk wanted not only me burdened and hated, but someone to take over. Not if I can help it. Naruto responded, and Anko realized that she couldn't move her own body and felt a little numb while she was it. Here we go. Anko felt like she was being sucked through a straw of something once Naruto touched her curse mark. Once she came to, she didn't recognize her surroundings. Where the hell am I? There was nothing to see but white. White nothing, which included a ground that Anko was sitting on but couldn't get on her legs for some reason. All this is forgotten when a booming voice emerged a lot like this. This is where I can finally have a good meal. This one has been long overdue. Anko flinched at the sheer volume of the voice that was nothing like a human at all. She turned to see something that she hadn't since the day Naruto had been born, the Kyuubi. I feast. Anko then felt a new pain altogether. It was in the same shoulder as her curse mark and it was like the bones her side were being dragged out with the skin stretching along. It was horrible. And yet it was all in an instant before it was gone. And so was the world around her. It is time to awake Anko-san. That was a familiar voice this time and Anko found herself in the same place again and she was still on her back. Anko then saw the same old blonde looking down on her, making her blush in embarrassment and anger. What the hell was that brat? Anko shouted, but Naruto didn't say another word. Just stared at her shoulder and at the mark. So what, it is still there and Anko was surprised to see it vanish. How did you do that, brat? I didn't. You hated that mark so you won't see it again, simple as that. Naruto said and Anko was not amused. I do hate the mark, but it isn't that simple to get rid of. Anko started to realize. You removed a piece of Irachi team's soul and allowed my chakra to naturally get rid of the mark. You catch on fast, like a true jonin, Anko-san. Now we can prove to those pigheads that they are wrong about you. Just show them. Naruto said and Anko didn't budge as the brat soon left her sight. She just started at her shoulder, it was just like the rest of her skin, pure and clean and without anything on it, not even freckles. Just what kind of kid are you, Naruto Uzumaki? And so, the 5th day of the second exam came and went, which meant that now, it is time for the final part of the Chunin exams. Or so the genin thought. Preliminary matches. Are you fucking with me? We just got out of the woods and we are tired. Here's inside. He just explained that even though some teams got either kicked out or killed off in the first and second exams respectively, there was still too many genin to have the finals on that day. It will take hours in the hot sun that will not be present to any visiting clan, family or noble that comes to see the ending of the Chunin exams. So they had no choice but to cut the amount of shinobi in half so that the number of genin will be more approvable and doable. And that meant preliminary matches. If you don't like it then too bad. You were given 5 days, not a moment longer. You should have organized more of your time if you wanted a few minutes of rest. Hiruzen said sternly and soundly to get his point across. Anyways, we are going to do this whatever you like or not and we begin by. Excuse me, Hokage-sama. A voice of a sickly old man interrupted Hiruzen. Wouldn't it be better if I take over? Everyone was wondering why this guy, with baggy eyes and coughing every single minute, could be a respected shinobi that was bold enough to ask of something to the Hokage so casually. Hayate, go one ahead. Hiruzen said and stepped back for Hayate to take over. Elivarian and welcomedo. The preliminary Hayate's speech was hard to hear through his coughing. Matches where pair each of you ta fight to the win and move on to the finals. And in the finals, do we fight each other again? One of the genin asked and Hayate only nodded. Yesies. We will explain, answered preliminaries area over. Now we'll do this. Hayate turned to Anko who was also there, but she didn't hear his voice until the object of her stare had alerted her about the shift in attention. Anko then dusted herself and summoned some kind of giant blackboard that was electronic on the top of the wall facing the genin. What Hayate means is that we will take your names from the death papers you all signed at the start of the second exam to pit 2 of you at random to fight. If you win then you are allowed to remain in the exams and still try out for the promotion at the end. Anko said and the genin understood perfectly. Then they were asked to remain in the catwalk to wait for their name to appear on the blackboard. And the first names to appear are as follows. Sasuke Uchiha vs Yoroi Academy. Good luck Sasuke. Give them hell Sasuke my man. Pick his ass Sasuke-kun. The boy smiled at the support from his closest friends as he descended down back to where the genin before, at the start of the preliminaries. The man coming down the opposite side was a man whose appearance was greatly concealed by the mask he wore around his mouth that hung to around his neck, sunglasses that obscured his eyes and forehead protector which he wore like a bandana. He also wore what appears to be the standard attire of his team consisting of a high-collared, sleeveless purple shirt with a short-sleeved white one underneath, a simple obi around his waist, purple pants, blue sandals and purple fingerless gloves. Begin. Hayate said before backing off so that both genin have more than enough room to fight. Sasuke wanted the first move to see how his opponent takes it and the former did it by sending 5 kunai and 5 shuriken with some kind of markings on each of their handles at Yoroi. The masked man took out one of his own kunai to deflect half of them while dodging the other half. He then started to act, thinking that he was in the clear for his turn, but then Yoroi noticed that his body had suddenly turned terribly numb. So bad that he could barely move. All Yoroi could do was see Sasuke smirk like a kid who was about to win against his father in a card game or such. You like it? I got it from my big brother who taught me how to use it. He called it the Juu Iten Sudawana Kuin, 10-point star trap seal. I personally love it. Sasuke said in a mocking voice that successfully got Yoroi to heat up under his mask with anger. But then Yoroi actually got up with the kunai and shuriken glowing an eerie blue that made Sasuke squeeze his eyes, another thing that he learned from his big brother. Never show fear or shock because the enemies of a shinobi can use those to disastrous results. I see that you have got past me that the assault was to capture me instead of doing damage, but you couldn't tell from first glance that I can absorb the chakra of others, and that includes your seals. But Sasuke wasn't worried at all and only placed his hands in the tiger hand seal, which caused an explosion all around Yoroi. Everyone beside Team 8 and Team 7 were shocked. Among the trapping seals on the kunai and shuriken were explosive seals underneath. That could be lethal for any regular human being, but Yoroi had managed to gain some extra chakra to shield himself from the heat and impact of the explosion around him, but he instead looked worse to wear and even had the sounds of heavy panting in his voice. Damn you Uchiha. Now I am out of mercy. Yoroi then ignored the pain of the exhaustion in his bones and muscles to charge for Sasuke to give a right-hand punch, but ARGGH. What? Yoroi felt like he was blinded by something that glazed his eyesight, which got him to instead hit a portion of the concrete wall behind Sasuke. The real one was only a few inches from Yoroi, still with his smirk. So am I. Sasuke delivered a real punch that did extra damage since Yoroi's guard was a real mess. But this man was not a genin for nothing and still used his superior weight and mass to at least gain an advantage against the smaller but faster Sasuke. That is, until Yoroi was able to use both to grab Sasuke into a hold on the ground and his hand on the latter's forehead, once again coated with the same eerie blue glow. Now I have got you. And your chakra is mine. Yoroi boasted of the edge he had gotten over his much younger opponent. That is until Sasuke exploded right in his face. Literally. Sasuke. Yoroi heard it in the crowd and felt like he truly won by forcing his opponent to commit suicide to do some extra damage, but instead of the sound of bone and flesh hitting the ground, it sounded more like tree wood. Thanks to my girl, you have lost. Yoroi heard that voice and only had the time to sweat until the world went black, and not because his sunglasses were covered in dirt and concrete, but that Sasuke had landed another powerful punch, this one to the rear of Yoroi's head. Yoroi couldn't feel or hear anything anymore, not even when Hade appeared to check the vitals. Shaosha. Sasuke Uchiha. Alright Sasuke-kun. You were amazing. Ino was the first one to reach the said boy once he had gotten back on the catwalk. Everyone was shaking their heads when the couple kissed each other's face of. Ino just wasn't known to be shameful or modest now that she finally had gotten a boyfriend. Big brother eh? Sasuke. Naruto said looking at the said boy with a tone and expression that demanded an explanation. The only one given was Sasuke laughing nervously and rubbing the back of his head, a habit that was one of Naruto's, and now Sasuke had caught it like the flu. Naruto didn't say another word and he didn't need to in order to watch a couple of more matches of genin that he didn't know personally. But the real kicker came when the board showed two names that Naruto did know. Sakura Haruno vs Ino Yamanaka. Good luck Ino. Naruto said to the said girl who just say who she is going to fight. You have the chance to prove once again to Haruno that you are the better girl for Sasuke. Ino gasped in realization and then smirked evilly. Good luck and show everyone what a girl can really do. Sasuke said with a calm and yet excited tone that got him awarded with a kiss on the lips and the promise of another if Sasuke keeps cheering, regardless of who wins. Sasuke then promised to give Ino a kiss if she did win. That raised the stakes for sure and somehow, Sakura had heard every single word of it. I will still beat you and when I do, Sasuke will kiss me. What a foolish girl she is. Now everyone saw her as a desperate fangirl instead of a human girl. Not even Asuma Sarutobi, son of the Hokage Sakura-sensei, can look at her in the same light again with hope that he could change Sakura for the better. He had failed. Begin. Hade announced the start of the match and had to disappear in a flash in order to get out of the crosshairs for Ino's storm of kunai. Sakura tried to dodge them all but got a huge gash and various cuts already. But this was ignored by her in Sakura's anger at Ino who looked smug at the insult and injury. Bunshin no Jutsu, clone technique. Sakura then made it look like she had created copies of herself as illusions. But Ino wasn't finding this even funny and managed to hit the solid Sakura. How? Illusions don't leave footprints since they are not solid Sakura. I thought you will know that as well as I did under my training. Ino said with distaste to Sakura's ignorance to the obviously weakness with her jutsu. Now. Ino took her long hair and cut it with a spare kunai and then threw it at Sakura. As the girl screamed and braced for something of an attack that she thought Ino was doing, Naruto was asking Sasuke if he didn't mind Ino cutting her hair like that. She wanted to grow out her hair for occasions like this and it will grow back. I like her blonde hair if long or short. Naruto took it with a smile and turned to watch the rest of the match. Just in to hear Ino shout Shintenshin no Jutsu, mind-body switch technique. Her body had suddenly went limp and Sakura shook like she suddenly got a cold and picked up one of the hair strands. While in the palm of her hand, the hair strand suddenly went for Sakura's neck in an attempt to disable her, but something went wrong. Sakura suddenly dodged and Ino's body had regained life again. The latter then smirked at the former, you still surprise me Sakura. That you have this better inside your head, just wanting to get out and rape my boyfriend, huh? How dare you? Sakura charged, thinking that Ino's exhaustion from using so much chakra all at once will give her an edge. She was wrong. Ino was able to match every attempt to get a hit with movements to cancel out the power in the attacks, if you can count them as such. I do dare because I can and I can also do this. Ino delivered a mean left hook and a kick to the stomach that stunned Sakura a little while. I can do this too. Sakura then charged once again but more like a wild and angry bull that got Ino in the stomach too. But Sakura couldn't get anywhere when Ino used friction to stop both of them. Okay, that hurt a little but this will hurt a lot. Ino shouted and Sakura realized too late that her attempt to get some damage in had only got Sakura herself open for Ino to pound on her head with both of her hands locked by fingers. Sakura was out like a light in no time without any problem at all. Shasha. Ino Yamanaka. After that match, to give a better image to the term catfight, it was another match of lesser known genin until the next set came like this. Hinata Hyuga vs Tenten. It is your time to show them all what you really are. Naruto turned to his own girlfriend and gave her a kiss on the cheek that could have caused her to faint, but she was a lot more confident and giggled instead. One of her dreams left, other than marrying Naruto, was to prove to her family members that they were both wrong about her and the idea of keeping the family into two. One is the master, while the other was the slave with the ultimate slave mark. Begin. Heiichi shouted as soon as both kunoichi were on the ground floor and on the arena. Tenten then took the first move by unsealing some kunai and rained them on Hinata, something that was now somewhat of a bore to everyone. It is scary on what you can get used to after all. But this time, everyone was surprised to see the last thing they expected. Hinata had not even tried to dodge or deflect the kunai, but managed to catch every single one with her bare hands. Tenten was in shock, this one is so new that it stunned her, that was her undoing when Hinata sent them flying back. It took amount of half of them cutting at her skin to get Tenten to dodge the rest. But when he reached for more, she felt something wrong. Tenten looked down and saw that her clothes were shredded and were hanging loose on her body. My clothes. Turning around, Tenten saw that her own kunai had not only attacked her, but had disarmed herself completely. My weapons. Tenten couldn't even more to retrieve them without risking tripping over her loose clothing and expose more of her private parts. Perhaps you should have been more diverse when it came to a profession, Tenten. Otherwise I couldn't have done all this. Hinata said in a way that Tenten shivered at. All before she got angry enough to actually strike Hinata when she was directly in front of her. Shut up. You stole me weapons and humiliated me, but I don't care anymore. Tenten actually ran and ignoring that her pants were now revealing her plain white panties for all to see, all to get her weapon scrolls back. Now take this. Smshmrik, twin rising dragons. This was unique to Tenten since she was a genius when it came to weapons, even more than most shinobi in the land. First, she places two small scrolls in an upright position on the floor. When activated, the two scrolls release smoke while also flying and spinning into the air in the shape of two dragons made of smoke. Tenten then jumps between the two scrolls and starts to rapidly summon and throw all sorts of weaponry as a powerful projectile barrage. And yet, with all the flair, Tenten let her guard down when she thought that she had finally got Hinata. Only to see that her work had only proved herself a complete failure at wood carvings. Not with a badly damaged log with all its pieces around the main body with a large carving. Then Tenten felt like someone had hit a certain spot on the back of her head before the world turned dark, silent and numb. I wish you will realize that we were taught the basics for a reason and I learned my own way with the help of White Team and my love Tenten. And to think I was going to let you marry Oni-san when I become the next head of the clan. Hinata said without any stuttering or low self-confidence at all. In fact, Hinata was always scary without both. Regardless, everyone cheered for this great match even if it was one-sided. It was like how a senior does a freshman when it came to genin. But then came something that set everyone's expression down to tension. The board showed another set of names, but it was the combo that made everyone tense. And the source of it that passed to the civilians was the genin who did to a couple of the jonin as well. Naruto Uzumaki vs Neji Hyuga. That was to be a match never to forget for anyone who loves a good shinobi duel. But just how will both Hinata and the Hyuga clan take the aftermath? No one was to be certain or sure, but only time will tell. Silence. That was to be the noise or better yet, lack of that which everyone heard when the board showed those two names. So you are going against Hinata's cousin, huh? Naruto then heard the voice of his uncle speak to him. Yeah, I wonder what she will think of me whatever I win by beating on Neji or lose to him. Naruto responded, even with Neji treating her like his lifelong enemy, she still loves her. What do you think Kasan, Karen Ni-chan and Mito Aba-chan? Naruto then asked for his female occupants for some advice. I will say that if you try to forfeit then you will hurt your girl twofold Naruto-kun. That was Kushina's voice and it was true. Forfeiting wasn't really the way out of a possible lose-lose situation, but the coward's way out of a tough decision. And being like that is the last thing Hinata needs in her boyfriend. How about you do it anyways, Naruto-ni-san. If you win then you can make up to Hinata-chan by helping her with her cousin. Naruto then heard Karen taking her own turn. I believe that to be the case, Naruto-kun. You can at least talk Neji down until he is exhausted, then the boy should be willing to listen to just about anyone, even your girl. Naruto nodded when his great aunt Mito spoke as the last of the bunch to speak to her great nephew. Okay, I will try. I will not let anyone down and not Hinata-chan especially. Naruto spoke to them all and got ready to walk down to the fighting area. Are the two combatants ready? Hayate asked, and both Naruto Uzumaki and Neji Hyuga nodded. Then cough begin. The proctor announced and threw his hand downward to signal the beginning of the latest match in the preliminaries. You might as well quit right now. You will spare yourself of humiliating not only yourself but Hinata-sama for choosing the wrong boy to be her man. Neji tried to taunt Naruto, something that the former thought he was a master of. Think about it, even if you win then Hinata-sama. Neji tried to go further but suddenly found himself feeling like he was suffocating. The air had gotten so heavy that his voice drowned in his attempt to regain steady breathing. I have thought about it, Neji. Naruto spoke, almost like he was possessed by a demon or the devil himself. I think that I am going to fight not for my promotion, but because fate gave me a chance to help your family. The Hyuga clan of Konohagakure. Something that you are hoping to break apart while you stand on the sidelines, laughing. Neji could only croak worse than a sick toad to all this. And that is something that I will never allow to happen. Even with a man who is just too afraid to admit that he was wrong to hate his own cousin, or that there was no way for Hinata-chan to escape a Jonin's grasp at 3 years old, or that your father willing allowed himself to be killed. Naruto said, and that got Neji to growl instead of just croaking. You don't have the right to talk about this like it is your business. Neji shouted, but since he was no longer confident or even smug, just words couldn't even get children to flinch. You're right. I shouldn't be involved so soon, but since you are getting Hinata involved with some deadly business when she never did anything that bad to you, here I am. Naruto said and Neji growled again. And don't give me that since she is weak that Hinata will always be. She is not weak in body, not weak in mind or weak in soul. You are. I am not weak. Neji finally got up, albeit with shaking legs. I was the rookie of the year in the academy. My team are miles ahead of you thanks to me. I am not taking about the academy or your team. Naruto barged in. And if you were weak in body then you should have been promoted much earlier than today and without the need to take the exams. No, you kept yourself weak so you will still take the exams and take a twisted opportunity to try and kill Hinata-chan. Only that you your match with me instead. Naruto explained. All I see is a boy who is angry at the wrong people because he doesn't want to face the ones that really killed your father, the Raikage and Kumagakure. Shut up. If Hinata-sama. Neji shouted but only swallowed his words in boiling anger to see that Naruto only showed the emotion of annoyance, topped with a whatever gesture flap of his hand. We all know and we are tired of the same old story. It is still as boring, stupid and unbelievable as ever. Naruto said with pure disrespect in his tone that only got Neji angrier, if that was possible. So, how can you still deny that you hated the wrong people for so long? Now that is stupid. I said shut up. Neji shouted trying to go for the killing stroke this time. But Naruto just dodged every single one of those, taking his unspoken vow to heart. Hold still. Naruto just shook his head at Neji, like a disappointed teacher to an unimpressive student. If you are giving so much of your energy into such words, then you should really think that I will obey you. Why is that? You are a genin like me and even someone like you can't have the rights and authority of a Chunin. Naruto said, but found himself needing to dodge quicker as Neji increased the barrage of strikes. Shut up. Shut up. Neji was not trying to even hear Naruto's words. But it was hard to block out the blonde's voice when both hands are grinding against the air to get a hit at Naruto. Then Neji tripped. He tripped over his own feet. Neji, who was a prodigy in his clan techniques and had been a genin a year longer than Naruto or any other team, tripped over his own 2 feet. Looks like taking the evasion tactics was better than going all out on a target that you know you couldn't even hit. Naruto said and it was true, the blonde didn't even have a bead of sweat in any section of his hide. Now then, you want me to hold still so be it. Neji took the chance with the energy he got back to finally touch Naruto. But the blonde didn't budge. Oh. Neji tried not to say like a little kid who scraped his knee. But it felt like he was trying to bash into a steel statue. What? Neji said before he suddenly felt lightheaded and then the rest of his body no longer felt sagging down due to his exhaustion. Instead, Neji felt like he was flying upward, non-stop to the clouds. And for some crooked way, he was. With you feeling like you can reach the clouds, you will instead be sent down to the earth hard. Naruto said, Futen. Unjuenro, wind release. Journey to above the clouds. Naruto then made a downward motion with his arm. That caused Neji to fall hard indeed back on the area ground, causing some bruising and blood to spill out of the mouth. Neji tried to get up from this sudden joint of pain, but Hinata-sama will Neji tried to understand why Naruto is actually taking action and doing so physical damage after the impression and the vow Naruto made. Only for Naruto to appear in a blur and force Neji to face the stands where Hinata was clear all this on. One of Shinobi's greatest weapons are still deception Neji. Naruto said and Neji couldn't believe that the latter had gotten himself fooled by the former. Let's see the rookie of the yesteryear fight still. And before Neji could do anything else, the uplifting feeling came again. Futen. Unju Enro. And like before, Neji felt a sudden joint throughout his body. Aki KKSHM, 8 trigrams vacuum palm. Neji finally got his nerves together to launch a sudden displacement of pure air to hit Naruto. Too bad that it barely did anything to the blonde compared to Naruto's damage to Neji himself. Suiton. Miserapa, water release. Wild water wave. Naruto counteracted with a strong burst of fast-moving water at Neji. The Hyuga barely evaded it and got a cut on his right cheek when he underestimated the real range of the water wave. Suiton. Suiton no jutsu, water release. Water bullet technique. Next, Naruto sent a large bullet of water into Neji's direction. Haki KKSHM. Thankfully for the Hyuga, he was able to counteract this time. Haki Rakujkin SHM, 8 trigrams 64 palms. Neji then moved in with his strength and speed finally returning. And yet when Neji tried to begin the technique, Suiton. Sujin Heki, water release. Water wall. Naruto halted Neji hard with a large wall, once again, of water. Now that was an inventive way to use a technique made for basic defensive tactics. You will have to try harder than that. Naruto said while Neji was trying to gather himself together when the wall of water also launched hard into one of the surrounding walls of the arena. Futen. Unju Enro. Naruto then sent Neji flying above and down below yet again. But this time, Haki KKSHM. Neji distracted Naruto with yet another vacuum wave attack. But this time, Neji moved in and actually managed to hit Naruto. The distraction tactic worked rather well in Neji's favor after all. Haki Rakujkin SHM. Neji then gave Naruto no chance to counterattack this time. 2 strikes. 4 strikes. 8 strikes. 16 strikes. 32 strikes. 64 strikes. In quick sequence, almost like a machine gun, Neji shouted his attacks that doubled in damage for each strike. And Neji felt like he had this in the bag when Naruto burst into pure water, soaking the Hyuga once again to the bone. Mizu Bunshin, water clone, what the hell? Now what did one of my clones ever did to you? Neji growled to hear Naruto's voice, mocking him for all this. It took a good hour to pump the chakra into that Mizu Bunshin to fight someone even of your prowess. Damn it, you made your point. Neji shouted at the blonde who happened to be lazing around without a care in the world. So why should we delay our fight for something like that? Fight me seriously for once. Neji then saw that Naruto's smirk was still present. I haven't been fighting like that since the match started. Haven't you noticed already? Naruto said and Neji gasped to see that the water from the Mizu Bunshin hadn't dripped off his body like water usually does. But before Neji could do anything else, the water on his body started to move irrationally. It was like it all grew and covered Neji in a water sphere. Tsurum no Jutsu, water prison technique, is a very helpful jutsu if you are patient enough to try it out. Naruto said, and I did. That is how I learned to do this. Neji felt something that he never did in his life. The water that surrounded him had suddenly collapsed with force like a bomb exploded in the sphere along with him. The trauma was incredible and Neji could no longer gather any strength to get on his knees even. It was like Neji's body had doubled, no tripled in weight. Enough. Neji said through it all this is enough. I forfeit. Neji felt no regret tossing in the towel, since it was clear that Naruto was a shinobi that deserves to be a Chunin, not to remain a genin. And he felt relieved to see Hade appear in the arena. Winner by forfeit is Naruto Uzumaki. That was so cool. Naruto sighed to hear Kiba act like the kind of kid that the blonde could have seen himself be the same if he hadn't met the souls of his relatives or Hinata-chan. They all have pounded some maturity and manners into Naruto's head, both literally and figuratively. Do you think I can do something like that to kick ass and take names? I think that you should save that attitude until you actually start learning how to control the elements. And I can't be completely sure that you can use the wind element like I can. Naruto said, a bit of a smartass. I guess that when your teacher is convinced enough then you and your teammates will take that huge step. Really, Kiba shouted, like a kid who was promised a new toy if he behaved accordingly. A nod from Naruto was all Kiba needed to excite it all over again. But the preliminaries are still not over yet. After a short while, the board then showed 2 more names, Shikamaru Nara vs Kintsuchi, and when those two were pitted against each other, it was a very short match. One that Shikamaru had only won because he didn't want to face his mother if he lost. So when he finally showed motivation to fight, it was an easy match and even easier for Shikamaru to trap his opponent in his signature jutsu. And all Shikamaru had to do was force Kin to knock herself out conscious, since he forgot that she was facing a wall while her opponent was in the wide open. Shaosha. Shikamaru Nara. Compared to Naruto's epic battle with Neji, this one was like a simple soap opera. Yet, not even the housewives that love the soap operas were excited in the aftermath of this battle. Everyone didn't even look at Shikamaru, who won his match easily, they just want to see the next pair of genin to fight each other. And then the board finally showed two more names: Kiba Inyazuka vs Kankuro. Alright. Kiba shouted and grabbed the little white puppy partner of his for his preliminary battle. We are going to win this for sure. Kiba showed enthusiasm for this battle, if only it was appreciated better. Because later, is that it? Kankuro said, with a puppet that once impersonated him by his side. I thought you clan heirs were more than all this bullshit. And right in front of Kankuro was a very badly beaten Kiba and Akamaru tied to the ground. Oh well, let's end this. The puppet user then used the life-sized one that he called Crow to give a beatdown on Kiba until the dog trainer wasn't even conscious. It turned out that the Kankuro that everyone saw walk down to the arena was a puppet, cleverly and masterfully molded to not only look but also act and talk like the owner. That was to be the mistake Kiba made to try and destroy the puppet, who was agile enough to dodge the dog boy's attacks. And when Kiba burned half his energy into finally striking the puppet, it was easy for Kankuro to reveal himself and take advantage of Kiba's exhaustion. It was a real pity that Kiba never learned what Naruto had proven when the blonde fought against Neji, that you should never tire yourself out, failing to hit your opponent. It was just giving them a golden opportunity for an easy win. The Inyazuka clan sure didn't look happy about how their heir had made such a stupid mistake of letting his huge ego get the best of him. Later, when the area was cleaned of the blood and the two fighters removed, the board showed another pair of names. And this time, no one was expecting much, and we just content to see one of the random pairs that include this one. Choji Akimichi vs Misumi Tsurugi. And when Choji showed signs of hesitation, he heard from his teacher that a free trip to his favorite place to eat. That got someone who loves food to get down to the arena in a blur. And when Misumi joined Choji, Hade announced the match to begin. Misumi was the one to make the first move and surprise everyone with his ability to dislocate his nerves and bones to treat his body like rubber. This allowed Misumi to bond his victims until he crushed them. And when he attempted to do the same for Choji, Misumi underestimated the clan heir's power. Not to mention that Choji finally found a way to use his weight to his advantage. Which includes crushing Misumi into the ground and grinding the rubberly genin around when Choji used a technique he called the Nikkiden Sensha, human bullet tank. And pretty soon, Misumi couldn't hold on to his target while Choji won't let up, rolling like a boulder down a hill. And after that brutal showdown, everyone was just begging for more. And they got it when the board showed two of the few remaining names on the list. And this time, they can expect a fierce match with an expert in hand-to-hand combat going against a mistress of the wind. And the names are Temari vs Rock Lee.